activate that. So just for those that are joining us, we have called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Also tonight, we will be utilizing the chat, and we will be utilizing a Google form. The Google form has worked well for us in the past, but based on different feedback we have received and how it has been used in recent meetings, we are going to amend how we use it tonight a little bit, and everyone will have open access to the responses. So it is being monitored by our Vice President-elect, Allison Gunning, and she will kind of keep an eye on things and bring up any questions that people have, or help recognize people that do want to speak out at the meeting, or during the meeting, I should say. And we also will take any anonymous comments and things. There will be time later on in the agenda that that all comments will be read. Okay. So
Melaine,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Before you go on, would you mind, and I believe the agenda doc is asking folks to have permission. It's a little.
Let me double check.
Thanks, my friend.
Oh, yep. There was lots of that happening today, so thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right, thanks everybody.
If I need to put it in the chat again, just let me know.
And I am screen sharing, so if there's something that's coming up in the chat that I'm not seeing, please definitely be my eyes and ears on that. I appreciate that. So we've called to order approval of this agenda. Hopefully you're now able to access. I see all of the animals arriving at the top of my screen, so you're all arriving as well. We will have approval of the minutes. Officer and committee reports will come from 4 of us tonight. And then Lindsay will give us an update on the second quarter dues from AMTA and the status of that conversation. And then we will move on to the 2023 budget, which Lindsay Wright and the finance committee members will put forth for us. New business, we have some 3 items that I'd like to share with you and get your feedback on. And here in this at this point in the agenda, you do see that Google form where we will have open comments and questions, and the link where you can also view responses. And I hope that please rest assured that I will not end this meeting without reading all those comments that have been submitted. We'll end with some announcements, and I have one very quick, hopefully, as I like to kind of think of a year-end bit that I'd like to do for us as we close out our meetings for the calendar year. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. And I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see what's happening.
Allison Gunning, so moved.
Great, thank you. And as a reminder, go ahead and please put any motions that you make into the chat tonight. That will be helpful to us and helpful to Amy. She does her awesome minutes. Make sure you put the awesome part in the minutes, Amy, because that's the kind of minutes you take. I have a second from Lindsay, it looks like. All of my voting members, exec board members, which are my appointed and my elected officials, go ahead and raise hand. Okay. Looks like I have 14 raised hands. You may lower hands. Anyone opposed? There you go. All right. Any abstentions? No, it looks like the motion carries. We will go ahead to our next agenda item. And our next agenda item will be the minutes from November 9th. And as I screen share those here for you, pull those up. I tried to put all my tabs in the right order tonight. We'll see if that works for me. We'll see if that helps me with that multi-tab situation here. All right, so we have our meeting minutes done by Amy this last meeting, a little less, I guess, right around a month ago. So I will scroll and give us a little bit of time to make sure we can look at these. We had several different bits of pieces that were in the consent agenda. So those are all living and breathing on the website, those reports. We encourage people to visit the website and learn more. Committee report, it's from membership and myself. Old business, an update from Todd on the symposium, an update on the dues, strategic planning update. New business member support was discussed. A draft of the 2023 budget. was discussed and presented, and then conference policies were discussed, tabled till this next meeting. Comments and questions, and then we did move into executive session to discuss special projects. Okay. All right. Thank you for confirming quorum, Dr. Barnard. All right. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Rebecca Barnard, I move to approve, or actually I will second since Todd beat me to the.
Okay. All right, we've got a duel between Minnesota and Indiana. Who's gonna make the first motion? Do I have a second? All in favor? Please raise your hand. All right. So I have 15 hands raised. We may lower hands. Anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for that. All right, so as we move along, President's report is very, very brief tonight. I wanted to kind of give you an update on just a couple of things, kind of current tasks that have been completed since our last meeting. I guess it was probably close to a month ago. Now we received notification that our the regional president's representative to the board of the AMTA board, the regional president's representative to was stepping down and resigning, and that brought the presidents together to brainstorm a little bit with a request from AMTA about how we wanted to move forward with that position. So there were several conversations between all of us regional presidents thinking about the best steps forward for that, how best to fill that, whether it was one of us taking on the role solely, whether it was one of us or us rotating in and out of the role. We drafted and wrote a letter back to AMTA with several questions and are waiting to hear back on that. The general consensus was that at this time, none of the current regional presidents felt comfortable taking that role on in a singular way, it was more than we were able to take on. And we had concerns about the rotation of us doing it that way too. So we're waiting to hear on that, how that will move forward. At this time, Brian Jantz, who obviously is Speaker of the Assembly and also President of NER, is acting as the liaison for us at this time. Continue to work with and discuss with AMTA's, or excuse me, GLR's treasurer and our new bookkeeper, ARO Bookkeeping. We actually had a meeting today via Zoom, so that was nice to connect with them, and Lindsay will tell you more about that. I spent time figuring out the logistics and processing the video links with closed captioning available for our strategic planning update, as well as the general business meeting that we had in November. And so both of those links will go out in email tomorrow with a reminder, I think, about elections. Todd is also going to put the links in the chat. Those are available on YouTube and are open to community members who would like to view them. I will just say as a side note, make sure you read the description underneath the YouTube videos, especially for the business meeting, because that includes all the additional documents you need in terms of agenda or minutes or other things that were referenced in chat and those kinds of things. So that is some of the things that we've been working on. Ongoing things that are happening. Obviously, strategic planning is continuing. I have purposely put that on the back burner this past couple of weeks and even longer than that, because I know that meeting fatigue is very, very high right now. And I'm debating whether or not we will have I will call or request a short meeting next week. But I needed to kind of get through this week and see how things went before I asked that of our volunteers at this time. There will be some calls for service going out. We've been working on that and adding to that, consulting with the president-elect about that. I've also been connecting with the mentor program and the mentor committee, having a bit of a check-in with them about finances and budgeting, as well as how a rebuild and a reboot will look for that part of our programming. And I'm hoping that we'll have more information to share after the new year about the timing of that. And there will be a call for service for folks that might be interested in mentoring to put out to express their interest if they are so inclined. They've also gone ahead and started some initiatives to bring about some quarterly roundtables with different themes in 2023. The success of our ethics CMTE its symposium really brought up the idea of having an ongoing ethics roundtable that could occur. I have asked Ann Hannon from Indiana to take that on, and she has agreed to oversee it at conference, and we're hopeful that that will also be something that is ongoing virtually via Zoom. We're also looking to have some more clinical training and educator roundtables. And I'm also hoping that we can collaborate with the DEI committee to have some of those ongoing discussions in a roundtable format as well throughout the calendar year. Really looking to increase that ongoing year-round engagement. I've also been working on, and you'll see this in new business, this will come up, a new ad hoc committee, and I will share more about that in new business, but looking to really kind of think about how GLR can offer help at the region, assistance and support at the regional level for various members of our community across different lenses and positions and areas of work. And this one specifically will speak and focus on clinical training and education. Also been spending some time brainstorming Leadership Academy development. This is something that has been on my list for a long time and unfortunately has been pushed to the back burner, but I am determined to get this up and off the ground. So you'll see some things coming up with that in the budget. But my goal with this is to really foster the development and the growth of new leaders in our region. And I really want for that development to occur so that it's leadership skills within the workplace as well as in our professional organizations. So as I'm starting to collaborate, I'm actually consulting with Laurel Rosen-Weatherford a little bit about this. She has an interest in this, talking about providing some background on organizational governance systems and structures, including our nonprofit structure, providing background on grant writing, learning a little bit about leadership development skills, or developing our leadership skills, looking at things with the DEIAJ lens that we are definitely trying to put into all aspects of our leadership, and also developing an awareness and knowledge of our own leadership styles and how those work in the environments that we're in, and how they can be utilized best. So I'm hopeful that that's going to roll out in person at the conference. That's my hope. We'll keep my fingers crossed on that one. And finally, the last piece that we've been working on ongoing has been a bit of fun research into the past, looking to kind of track down the previous or past GLR presidents. There's quite a long list of them. I kind of put together a list via email of some of our more seasoned, really involved professionals to see if they could help kind of do some of the detective sleuth work. And we have gotten many of the lines of our spreadsheets filled in. So Kaylee, I know, is going to be working on helping us to fill in some more of them, but also really trying to be mindful of finding out information if someone is no longer with us, and making sure that we're aware of who might have passed away. So if you think you have any interest or insight into any of that, please let me know, because we definitely have some holes, especially from our very early on leaders. So at this time, I will pass things on to President-elect Todd Schwartzberg.
Thanks, Melaine, and good evening, everybody. It's good to get to see y'all. I hope everybody is doing well. Going to share my screen. I have some exciting news to share. Is everybody seeing my screen? Wait, maybe only I am. Hang on. We've only been doing Zoom for how many years? Hang on a second. All right. So, I get to share with y'all the winners of our fall 2022 Special Projects Awards. And as Melaine said, and you saw in the minutes, at our last meeting, we did move into a special session so that we could talk confidentially and conduct an anonymous review. And so without further ado, we have 2 award recipients. We always award 1 research award and 1 Muse award. And our research award winner, and I really hope I am pronouncing names correctly. I hope I spelled names correctly. Our research award for fall 2022 is Lindsay Teuteberg. And their research study is titled "The Effect of Nature Immersion on Community Music Therapy Sessions." As we read it, we were just excited beyond all get out. There was so much merging of a whole lot of different things throughout our profession that went into this. It was a very well articulated, very well put together proposal. So congratulations, Lindsay. And Lindsay already knows that they will be presenting their work at the, not this coming regional conference, but next year, 24 GLR conference. So it'll be very, very awesome to get to learn from their work. The second award is our Muse Award. And for those of y'all that don't know, Muse is a acronym for Musical Instruments and Supporting Materials, Clinical Services, and Education. And our 2022 Fall GLR Muse Award recipient is Caitlin Crater. And Caitlin's project, which really embodied a lot of folks, I think, on her team at the hospital that she gets to work at. And again, it was another extremely well-written and articulated proposal, is titled Expanding Accessible Music Technology in Pediatric Healthcare. And very much like Lindsay's, we'll get to hear more about Caitlin's project as well at the 2024 GLR conference. So congratulations to all of those winners, and thank you to my colleagues who helped engage in a really wonderful anonymous review and a very, very robust discussion that we had too. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to leave you with was another bit of good news, but also some news to look forward to as we move into next year. At this time, there are no bylaw revisions that I am bringing forth and that the executive board is bringing forth to you. However, there will be, I don't want to use the word substantial, but they will be intentional and they will be impactful bylaw changes that we will bring to you, not only to present to you, but also to request a vote of you in March of 2023. And just a couple of additional things. Melaine and I are absolutely committed to continuing the work of dismantling governing systems of oppression through our ongoing collaborative revisions. We, through our strategic planning work that we've been engaging in, through our ongoing dialogue and listening and collaborations with our DEI committee, and that will continue, I hope, and I appreciate them very, very much. We have to continue that work, and yeah, I'll just leave it there. We have to continue that work. The other piece of this is that the bylaws need ongoing clarity. There are a lot of areas and sections in the bylaws that they're just not written well. And that's no fault of any predecessor or anything like that. It's just as we learn more, we get to make those clarifying revisions. And so some things that you can look forward to in some of that in March 2023 is going to be the further advancement of the work that we do in order to position ourselves to continue to be collaborative and a transformative regional organization. You'll be hearing a lot about, and Elaine's told you in previous meetings, about the work the Strategic Planning Committee has been doing around revising our mission and our vision statement. Those will be things that will go into the bylaws. Our core values that we'll present to you don't go in our bylaws, but you'll hear a lot about those at the regional conference in Indiana. And then some other things that I'm also interested in, as well as the important ones mentioned above, are going to be reviewing and revising our election processes to make sure that they are equitable, they're transformative, they're fair, they're the very best that we can make them. And along with that, also committee structures and a few other things. So a lot of exciting things, not only for our award winners, and again, congratulations to Caitlin and Lindsay, but also really exciting opportunities for us as a region to continue to do the work that we need to do to make our governing systems as fair, equitable, and appropriate as we can. So that is my report. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Todd. I know there's a question that did come in on the form for you specifically. Will reviewers' comments from the Muse and research proposals be shared with applicants to support their future endeavors? So I'll let you take that question.
Say that one more time, just so I understand. So shared.
Will reviewers' comments from the Muse research proposals be shared with applicants to support their future endeavors? I'm guessing maybe those that applied that didn't receive the awards. I think we have in past given some feedback. Becca, I'm going to look to you, Dr. Barnard. I think we've given some feedback at different times, haven't we?
Yeah. It kind of depends on the feedback that we get. Because of the way that that's an absolutely fabulous question. And as a writer, I like comments. I like to know how I can improve. So I definitely, that question resonates a lot to me. The way that we engaged in our anonymous voting and anonymous discussion, we engaged in some discussion in person, but then we did most of our discussion through a Google voting form that was anonymous. And there were honestly, there were not very many helpful suggestions or comments. But what I can do, and I'll send an email out to all the reviewers. And my apologies, I should have done this. I will let them know that if they would like to speak to me personally, I will give them as much feedback and as much support as I can. A lot of it was there were actually more. We only got one research, but I think we had like 5 or 6 different Muse applications, and we can only award so much. But I'm more than happy to work with them. I'm more than happy to give them the feedback that I can discern from their applications and give them any support to set them up for success in the future.
Great, thank you for that feedback.
Yep.
And thank you for the question. That's a great thing for us to add to our process. All right, moving forward on our agenda, I'm going to ask Rachel Lawrence-Lepton, our membership rep, to give us an update. Rachel.
Good evening, everyone. Please forgive my lack of voice. I'm going to do the best I can to speak without starting to cough up a lung, but if I do know, I'm okay. It's just me right now. So for those of you maybe who haven't had the opportunity to be on Zoom really late at night, the last couple of nights with AMTA, the membership committee, so all the chairs across the country, we made a proposal to look into changing the structure of membership. And the 3 main areas that were targeted through this was changing professional membership dues to 3 different levels. That was based upon whatever made the most sense for the individual in terms of what they could afford. There was no difference in what anybody got for those levels. There was also a reduction in student membership fees and also a reduction in retirees fee for membership to AMTA. When this was presented to the assembly, it was very clear there were a lot of questions and there were a lot of concerns and there were a lot of thoughts that needed to be thought through. And even though it is really important to every single membership chair that we make changes and we revamp membership to make it much more equitable and make sense for our music therapy community at large, there are definitely things that we need to do and we need to make changes. So what came from this was that we decided that there was no sense in rushing into anything. We want to do things the right way, and we want to make meaningful changes that are long lasting and not just a band-aid for which then we have to come back and look at again. So, and a lot of this had to do with what are the implications for the regions, especially, if there's professionals are in 3 different levels financially, and the majority of people choose a lower level that's less than current membership. That means there'll be a lower percentage of money that's coming to the region. And what is that? How does that impact us? Now, of course, GLR, we're a very fiscally responsible region. It's less of an impact for us per se, but excuse me, it's much more so for some of our other smaller regions. So we want to be really mindful of this. So there's lots of emails that are going back and forth. What I have done as your membership chair and as somebody who cares more than probably should, I have proposed an 8-month timeline to my various chairs that essentially allows the first 2 months of the year to reach out not only to all the regions, but also all the affinity groups, all the student groups, and say, what makes sense for you? What questions do you have? What is the information that you need financially only? There's a lot of other aspects of membership, and I'm not going to pretend like AMTA is flying high and doing everything right, but that is above my pay grade. I'm looking only, and my team is looking just at the financials. What information do people need to have to make the right financial decisions? What makes sense? What are the dues amounts that make sense based upon all these different aspects? And so we're going to do a major just trying to gather information. So expect to hear from me about that the first couple months of the year. I don't know yet if that is going to be in a survey. I don't know if it's just going to be, I take notes. I don't know yet. That's too much right now for my brain. And then we're going to spend the next couple of months, hopefully, consolidating those answers and saying, okay, well, what do we need on a national level? What do music therapists need, regardless of if they are members currently? And then hopefully my goal is to be able to come to the assembly and the board of directors for AMTA right around May and June and say, this is our proposal, this is what we want to do, such that if there are concerns, we have the time to be able to do this. Unfortunately, my committee was given a very short time frame to be able to make a massive change, which is necessary and needed. And we just didn't have the chance to think everything through. And this is real life, and we all have so much, wavelength. So anyway, my hope is that come September of 2023, no matter what, there are massive reforms, including possibly different levels of membership, which would require bylaw changes. I mean, my feeling is let's revamp all of it and let's make it something that works. And like, I'm done. I don't want to talk. I want to make changes. So that's very much what I am pushing forward on behalf of our region, so that we are represented, and just has been the push for our region that all music therapists are represented regardless of membership. That is my goal. Chelsea, did I forget anything? I don't know. There's mucus on my brain. I'm going to assume that's a no.
I think she gave a thumbs up. I think.
Okay, great. I can't see, she's not on my screen. So, okay, great. I think that's probably everything.
Great, thank you, Rachel. And I think I can speak for everyone on my appreciation for all this work. And I know you haven't been feeling well lately, so yikes. Yes, major kudos to you. I do see a hand up, Allison. Is that a hand up or is that a high five? I'm not, tell me which one.
Oh, it was a hand up, but it's mostly just to give a high five. I just wanted to publicly thank Rachel, as well as the the other membership committee members for their work in such a short time. And I think a lot of the questions that came up are not things that I hope you all know, are not things that I think you should be expected to know or to think of or to do any of those things. So I just, y'all did incredible work. And I just wanted to say thank you and have it in the minutes.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else have a hand up? I'm going to scroll real quick, and I know we do have a couple of comments that I will read at this time since they are applicable to the membership report that was just given. So switching gears here, we have a couple of anonymous comments and questions. One reads, if we had some specific questions or ideas about the tiered membership, can we send them to Rachel? I'm pretty sure that's a yes. Rachel, if you
absolutely, please blow up my email. That would be great. I'd love that kind of email than some of the other ones.
But don't try and leave her a voicemail, because her voicemail box is full because she's so popular.
No, I fixed that. It was all the spam voicemails. It's open now. It's available for you, Melaine.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I can't leave you fun messages. All right. And the next anonymous comment was, I was quite saddened to see the new dues proposal did not pass in the assembly. It appeared those voting against it were concerned about processing fees and the regions would take in less money. The idea of the proposal seemed to me that it was focused on equity and accessibility in order to increase the number of members, similar to how GLR lowered the cost of the regional conference, gambling that more would join. Can those who voted against it comment further?
That's a great question and something that we're all grappling with. I think we've taken a lot of the feedback and a lot of the questions that were offered and a lot of the rationale for why people did vote against it, and we're working on trying to get meaningful answers to those questions that just make people feel better about it. So I cannot speak to that right now. I don't know if anybody else who was on this can speak to that, which would be great. Oh yeah, go ahead, please. I'd love not to speak.
All right, I'll recognize Dr. Barnard. You're in the top left-hand corner, so I'll start with you first.
Thank you. I will say I accidentally put in the wrong thing. The first comment was for me, Rachel. So you will. I've had some time to process, and so I have some ideas. And if they're outside of my boundaries, I know you will be good enough to tell me to my moves and back in my boundaries. As regards to the second question, it's a really good. I'm glad somebody asked that. It's a great question. For me personally, it wasn't there transaction fees. There were just still a lot of little holes. Again, nothing that the membership you guys would have thought of. Like I thought the small business question was a really good question. Like if you're a business owner and you pay for, I think that so the tier, to me, the tier feels like it's going in the right direction. For me, the reason I voted against it is because I just want to flush out a few of those details so that we can make it as equitable and make sense to our membership as possible. And for me personally, I'm a little bit of I like to process things a little slower, so that's why I kind of thought, oh, I've got some other thoughts about this, and so I'll in the next week or so probably reach out to you, Rachel, with my brain starts to kind of like decompress a little bit. But for me personally, there were just some holes that I just wanted to make sure we kind of tightened up a little bit. I thought the process itself was definitely in the right direction and loved the thought that went into it. But for my own personal reason, that was why I voted against it.
Allison?
Thank you. I know I'm probably not a lot of people's favorite because I was one of the people speaking up against it. I apologize if it came across as fixating on the money. That wasn't my intention. The biggest concern, the tiers themselves, fantastic. I love the social justice. I'm going to forget what it's called, but what they had to help people determine for themselves what level. I thought the question on the businesses, what the small business owners was an important one. And I think too, I wish there could have been a little bit more discussion on just pushing back like a couple weeks into January, because Leslie, as the treasurer for AMTA, did such a great job in getting responses in less than 24 hours on some of those questions, which was so wonderful and helpful last night. But I thought there could have been some creativity there where we could have still gotten those tiers, but also just delayed, because finances are a monthly thing. They're not, if it would have come in by the end of January, it wouldn't have affected cash flow, to my understanding. But ultimately, I think we all know we're at a very critical time, and balancing my responsibilities as a regional executive board member while also trying to support the changes that are so needed in our national organization. Unfortunately, there's just been a lot of trust on follow through and follow up on requests that has been broken. So the questions that made it understandably for some seem that it was focused on the actual number money rather than just the logisticals and the structural piece. That comes from a place of just not trusting the follow through. So that's where I was at on that. But I really look forward to getting even some more detailed answers as Leslie and the rest of the group has a little more time and really making that change.
Thank you, Allison. Kelly, I think you're next.
So I was the one who brought up the business owner question. Just overall, there have been a lot of times where different aspects of AMTA processes haven't really, I guess, coordinated well with the business owner aspect. Specifically, there's always a lot of discussion about like the workforce survey and how it just doesn't match up well for business owners and all this. And as they were going through the different tiers, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, as a business owner, what, if I'm wanting to reimburse my employee, where would I put them? I really felt like that's an aspect that really needed to be flushed out before rolling this out, because I know it would have ended up at the business owners would have been like, what do I do? I think it's really awesome to have different tiers. And I think that taking the time to say, even something like, and I've been thinking about this too with the past couple of days, but if you're, as a business owner with lower tier rates, I am more likely to pay for my employees. Previously, with a part-time employee, I couldn't justify paying $250 membership fee for the amount that that employee was working. However, I did reimburse their state. I did pay for their state membership and all that because it worked for me. Having different tiers as a business owner, I think is a great way to make it so that it's also achievable for business owners at different levels to be able to do that for their employees. So I just really felt that needed to be addressed and laid out before this was rolled out into the public, so that there was some direction and not just a lot of questions of where do I go from here. The thing about like making assumptions about where somebody might fall within these different levels, or if people are putting in to be reimbursed to their employer, that aspect as well is, do they want to disclose certain things to their employer? So that was my reason. It's just getting it a little more clear and having some direction there.
And I'll just jump in really quickly because all of you got me thinking a lot after that conversation. And one of the things that I want us to start thinking about is having a specific tier for and level of membership that's for small business owners or for business owners, because we're so much of our field is really about private practice, and this would be an added way to help support that and really grow that. And reward that. And the fact that if we're able to, businesses are growing, that's amazing. And you should be able to give this benefit without it being a financial hardship to the business owner. So that is something that I'm right, like a bulk rate, exactly, Kelly. So it's something that I'm flirting with in my head. I haven't proposed to anybody else yet, but I just feel like this is what we need to do. This is a meaningful change that could make a difference. So anyway, this is how my brain's working.
You both, Kelly and Rachel. Todd?
Thanks for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for the question. I've also been reading some of the other comments and questions as well, which I know Malena will read out loud when we get to them. Y'all, I did not vote against this because of the money at all. We need equity. We need access to being members. We need a tiered system. We need everything that was proposed by the membership committee. But we're also a business. And we're a business that is financially failing. And we're a business that is financially failing because we have had horrible checks and balances for years. We have horrible accountability and transparency and communication and collaboration for years. And that's got to stop. And our role, humbly, as leaders, whether you're assembly or you're elected in the region or you're a standing committee member or you're a voting person, our role is to make sure that when a vote is given to us, we look at everything. And I hate that I had to go to sleep that night knowing that we weren't able to put into place a fair or a more fair and a more equitable membership tiered system. I hated that. But I really feared that if we said yes to it without all the other things that were being brought up, not just by some of us here on this call, but by others as well across our profession, that we wouldn't be setting ourselves up for success, and we would end up being in more financial problems than we currently are. Who do we have in the office that is even going to do any of this stuff? Is one of the questions. The other thing that I'm wondering, and I don't remember who I spoke to this about, but I love the tier system. I truly do. I wonder, why can't we go lower? Like, why those numbers?
So I proposed lower and it was not accepted because it was too low. So I took a very aggressive, and I did a tier system for everybody else, but it was just that was just not going to meet the financial numbers for AMTA because I sliced membership numbers like in half because why not?
You're amazing. Why not? Exactly. Like someone said, I don't remember, I think it was in the comment that Melaine read. When we did it, we took a go at it. But we also knew we had the numbers. Like, I'm not convinced, folks, that just because we lower the tier numbers that people are going to start joining AMTA. Let's be real. Okay. There's a lot more going on, and we all know that to be true. So to me, there is just a whole lot more going on. And anyone that knows me knows that I dearly want more equity. I want a whole lot more than just equity too for everyone. We have colleagues who are hurting, who are crying, and they've been hurting for decades, and that's got to stop. So y'all, I apologize that I had to vote no, but I felt that I had to because there were so many unknowns, and I had to make sure we set ourselves up for success because you all, everyone in the marginalized communities and the affinity groups, y'all mean the world to me. And I want to make sure that I do my very best to listen to you and to support you and to amplify you. And it was a hard decision. It really was. So I hope that we can pass it, and we can pass it soon. And maybe even lower. Like CBMT does it at 85 or 80. And they have 10,000. Anyway, all right. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm more than happy to listen and answer any other questions.
Thank you, Todd. At this time, I do want to offer my reflections as well, but I want to read the comments. I think that is also important. So I'm going to read some of the comments, and I will respond as needed, and I think as necessary here and as warranted, because you're asking for that. So reading on here with our questions. The next comment was, really appreciate the depth and purposeful manner you and your team is approaching this, Rachel. Thank you so much for the important work. The next comment, anonymously submitted, is, as a region that seems to pride itself on fiscal responsibility and independence from AMTA, I do have to say that I am deeply disappointed that both the president and president-elect spoke out in opposition of this passing. If the leadership was truly putting their members first, equity and dues is a first step. Relying so heavily on AMTA for funding should not be a concern. With a national organization facing so many unknowns, I would love to see this region seeking more ways to be self-sufficient and move away from depending on funds coming from AMTA in order to support the region. Thank you for this very honest and very frank comment. As your president, humbly as your president right now, I will say that this is something that I put a lot of thought and consideration into. It was not a hastily made decision to vote against this motion. In speaking out, similar to Allison, I would say that I am not necessarily speaking out against the motion from the standpoint of the tiered system, of the tiered structure. I very much think that that is where our organization needs to go. I think that that's a small but significant step that can, be a path forward on our kind of complicated path forward. So that's not something that I am at all opposed to. Probably the biggest things that I weighed, and I take great, very much try and think about the role that I was elected to, and how it's about guiding our region, and it's also about being fiduciarily responsible to our region and to our resources. I am 100% confident in the GLR's regions. I also know that other regions are not as secure, and that this could impact them in different ways. So I look at it from that lens. I also look at it from the lens predominantly as touching on what Allison said in my notes I had written before she spoke, actually, that I think some of the different mishandling of things, lack of transparency and things like that, and not always thinking things through, and then having to kind of retract or go back or redo. It really made me stop and say, I want this to be something that we don't have to go forward with that whole 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back kind of mentality. I also really didn't want us to feel rushed that this decision had to be made, because the calendar year is obviously ending and we're about to flip the calendar. I very much wanted it to be something that is well thought out. That way it is rolled out in the way that there is no continuation of any cycles of harm, that something wasn't thought through, whether it be for someone who is not able to, for whatever reason, it's harmful to them, right? Or whether there was questions brought up about the anonymity, which I think were addressed very well by AMTA Treasurer last night, and that she said simply the staff could do that. There were just some different logistics pieces that really became that were more my source of concern, not at all the structure. And I very much hope that we could think outside the box and get this done sooner than 2024. That would be my hope. And whether or not that can happen, I'm not sure. That's out of my pay grade, as Rachel would say. But I appreciate the opportunity to share why, and I appreciate the feedback. Thank you for that. As I'll continue reading, I guess President-elect Todd Schwartzberg, do you have anything else you'd like to say with regards to that comment? And you can say yes, no, I just wanted to give you that opportunity before I moved on. I didn't want to rush ahead.
No, you're sweet. No, I thought that was really, I couldn't agree more with what you said. Yeah.
So the next comment is a comment from Mia Krings. I wanted this to pass so badly and also share the deep disappointment. Honestly, I was going to vote yes, no matter what, until Clarissa herself, one of the leaders in the membership committee, reported their own concern about not having all the answers. I trust their concerns and decision, as the membership committee were the people who worked so hard to make this happen. Thank you for sharing that, Mia. I apologize for the symphony behind me that you might be hearing. The next comment that was brought up, the question brought up at the assembly meeting regarding the details regarding businesses and the regional income could have been addressed separately. Getting stuck in the perfectionism has created a delay for another membership year for justice and equity. 2023 is a critical year to get as many voices involved in the transformation of our organization as possible. I will say I couldn't agree with you more that it is a critical year, and it is a critical time, and I couldn't agree more. getting stuck in the perfectionism, I think it's this tug and pull that I feel, even as a regional leader right now, and wanting to do things in a way that is transformative but also responsible. And I think that we have all known, and AMT obviously has known, that membership was something that was going to come and be an issue. And I think that I wish that there could have been more time given to it, rather than just focusing on it, having the really intense conversations that Rachel and her committee and others from AMTA were working so hard in a crunched window of time. I think that also contributed to a delay in making this a reality. So I think that it's, yes, we did cause delay with a no vote. But I think they're also waiting to a last minute when we've known that this is something that we will face for several months, also contributes to the delay. The next question, let's see, the motion not passing in the discussion was consistent with what happens when white supremacy and fragility leads to getting caught up in the details, resulting in not moving forward with changes related to equity and accessibility. Yes, there are aspects, I think, where I can speak and say that I'm continuing to learn. Another resource was shared with me yesterday, and I've spent some time reflecting on it and made some notes on it as well, in regards to that conversation. And you know, I can tell you I continue to learn. I'm continuing to try and put the time in, and I will not speak for the others on this call, but I imagine that is the case for many of them as well. Does anyone else want to comment? And I'm just, you all have minimized. So are there any hands up I'm missing? If someone can make sure that they let me know as I'm reading here. All right, the next one is a question for Kelly. I respect and appreciate the business owner questions. However, I disagree with the choice to vote down the proposal based upon these questions that could not be discussed and addressed, that could be discussed and addressed. I apologize. Now people will only be able to join if they can afford the current dues, their current dues rate. Kelly, do you want to comment on that?
Overall, I felt that it was beyond the business thing. The business thing was my main concern. There were other holes that were discussed. So I felt that there were things that needed to be addressed prior to moving forward. So.
The next question is for Allison. You mentioned a lack of trust on the follow through. Is the lack of follow through a board issue or office issues or another entity?
Thank you so much for whoever asked this question. I appreciate the opportunity to speak more about it. I'm one of the people, I know there's a few or multiple people who've expressed concerns over how we're so both region nationally is so dependent on volunteer work. And so I don't think, for me, I will say for me, with this current board, I don't really, it's not a lack of trust with the current board, it's the system and it's the way the organization is set up. I mean, I'd say most people, I'm not familiar with having, you know, we don't know what we don't know. There's only so much time in our schooling as music therapists to cover all of the crucial music therapy things, let alone business pieces or how to do a nonprofit or things like that. And so for me, and it's not the people in the office either, by the way, they're kicking butts and taking names. So I think it's the people involved. It's not that the trust is broken there. It's that the whole thing, it just isn't working. And I do think it's just from the it's just like the impossible task. I feel like, people have responsibilities, and this is a huge responsibility, and everyone wants to give of their time and do it right and do all of the things, but we're human, and if you're volunteering, this isn't your main role in life, things can fall through the cracks a little easier. And so for me, it's just more how things are set up isn't working. And the follow through there and that piece, it's not the people. I hope that answers the question
Thank you, Allison. I'll continue reading the questions, and if anybody has their hand up, please, someone let me know. There's privilege in being a business owner, and to even be able to contemplate financial questions like that when marginalized and minoritized community members don't have that privilege at all. Thank you for sharing that. Next comment states, it's a catch-22. How many more people will join with lowered rates, but how many will that affect? How will that affect the overall financials? With very, very good questions, and I think on all of our minds. The next,
Melaine, Chelsea's hand is raised. It just popped up.
great, thank you, Chelsea.
Hi, how y'all doing? So I'm noticing that there are a lot of DEIAJ focused comments that are coming through, and I want to lift those up. And I also just want to share, you know, with my DEIAJ hat on, excuse me, that I have very similar sentiments to some of the comments that are coming through. And what I will say, and like my voice is shaking because my body is telling me that this is important to share with everybody. I'm like, oh, my pulse. So I feel compelled to also share and call in that a lot of the points that are being brought up about the questions, and something that I'm finding frustrating is that there seems to be a hyper focus on expedience when talking about this. And I find that I find that difficult because lowering membership dues in general in any way, shape, or form is something that has been asked of the organization for years and years and years. We all know that. And so, yes, the perfectionism and getting caught up in the details is 100% a white supremacist trait that was coming up last night, and it is continuing to come up, and it continues to be a barrier to why we cannot have systemic changes. And I also want to name that I am deeply disappointed and frustrated and upset that this motion did not go through, because there were organizational walls that were being pushed down in order to even have that come to the assembly. Because in the history of the membership committee, there have been over the last decade that I know for sure from speaking with previous chairs of the membership committee, where they've given feedback to AMTA staff and it was shot down mid-meeting. So the fact that the membership committee's recommendations were even brought to the board of directors is something that's not happened. And so I'm not going to say expedience about that, because it's something that's so necessary and that's been needing to happen for so long. And so the quick turnaround and timeline is not expedience. It's actually the opposite of that, because this is feedback that has been generated and built up from our community for decades. So it's not like this is some brand new information that's being worked on to work through. I will say that the membership committee did tireless hard work to come up with that structure of what that multi-tiered looked like, and working with Leslie. So I will not negate the hard work and the quickness of that particularly, but I'm just finding that I'm having a visceral response for expedience to continue to come up, because there was a huge opportunity last night that was squashed, and I'm very upset. And so I'm finding myself continuing to get upset that there are undertones of white privilege that are coming out in the discussion of this being masked as DEIAJ, because it's not. And we can see by looking at the comments that there are people that have been harmed and will continue to be harmed by not enacting this necessary change. So yes, I am hearing what, for fiduciary responsibility to the region. And, I think that those things are necessary and need to be said. However, I am very hesitant to think about harm to business owners and harm to leadership, because I don't see that fitting in this equation. The only people that are really being harmed are our marginalized and minoritized colleagues, and they will continue to be harmed by this, because this is a squash opportunity. So we can't say that we want to be equitable and continue to be in these spaces and claim DEIAJ, but then we're focusing on perfectionism and expedience. And so I really wanted to name that and lift that up and put my face on where I'm coming from with that specifically. Phew. We can still work and still grow at the same time. And I know that we can live in both worlds together. We can be hardworking and we can be uncomfortable at the same time in this moment. And I also want to name that we can be all of those things together right now. Thank you for letting me speak.
Elaine, you may be on mute.
Thank you, Chelsea, for that. And again, you continue to give me more things to think about and to reflect on and to grow with. And I'm mindful of that. So I appreciate that. I will continue reading the comments because I committed to that at the beginning of this time, and then we will do that. I am in agreement that the perfectionist, did I read this one? This is not. I am in agreement with that the perfectionism with this decision for passing tiered membership has failed us as members of the great music therapy community. We could have dealt with other aspects as they came up. The people you are making decisions for should be the first priority. This was incredibly disappointing, and I'm sensing some pieces of white supremacist lenses being applied to our decision-making, feeling that we have to reach perfectionist standards. We need to do better. Thank you for sharing that. And I believe we all want to do better, need to do better for sure. As you express an interest of not rushing things and think things through, please recall that the membership committee has years of information and a desire to do this. Very much a lot of information that they have been able to build that the recommendations on. And our next comment reads, the pushback on the expediency of this and quick turnaround is laughable. I've seen time and time again where this board has expected answers that require significant work, communication, and energy with little to no time. When expediency is only okay when it benefits you is power hoarding and playing into white supremacist ideals that you have mentioned wanting to work against. I'm having a hard time believing what is being said at this point. Thank you for your honesty with this statement. This is definitely something for us to reflect on. At this time, I don't see any other comments or any other hands raised. I will read the comments in the chat. It looks like we've had since the last bit here, the bulk rate that I think Alice mentioned. Erica mentions, Elaine, your well-rounded and diligent thought process is appreciated. Honoroti mentions, thank you, Chelsea. Anthony Borzi, I'm not sure if I want to say that correctly. I'm sorry, Anthony, if I said that incorrectly. Thank you, Chelsea. Completely agree and echo what you said from Honoroti. Rachel, thank you. Chelsea, I absolutely agree. Mia Krings says lifting up Chelsea's bravery. And Chelsea mentioned, as I also lift up all the folks here sharing in this space with me. You all working so hard and it's not going unnoticed. Are there any other further comments or thoughts? Anything else? If not, we will move on to the next part, but I want to make sure there's space for this. Seeing none, I will move to the next portion of our agenda, and that is an update from our APAC committee rep, Carol. Carol?
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So I think I'm actually surprised at how few questions we're asking overall right now. It's been surprising to me over months and months that the GLR meetings continue to be GLR meetings and we're just carrying on with our business. So I continue to be fascinated by that because I feel like we're opting for somewhat of a bubble. but everyone seems to be functioning in that bubble really well. So I actually want to applaud everyone tonight because it's one of the first meetings where there have been differences, and I think it's a testament to actually forget fiscal, to the strength of our region, and to the practitioners we have in our region, who can feel free to express those differences of opinions. So once again, I'm just so happy to be in this region where we can do this, and know that it's about work. And so I appreciate that. So obviously APAC is at the national level. And I guess what I'll do a little narrative before I give the rest of the news that I do know, is frankly that we don't know a lot. The committee's frustration in being essentially ignored by the current office and the board has been alarming. Communication hasn't taken place at all. There have been questions of people like, oh, is APAC still running? Yeah, we're still working. But yet decisions and questions about education and training aren't coming our direction. And we're the committee that's supposed to do that work and be assigned that work. So it's been interesting, but I'm happy to share. We continue to do reviews. I finished 2 others just in the past couple months. So we are continuing to do that. However, our co-chairs are resigning. It seems that there's a lot of following suit with the entire DEI committee resigning, that our chairs have been put in a space by the board that's no longer tolerable. And so, of course, you work on committees and people feel close to people. And so I will share it started in a whole fine, then we'll all quit. And then there won't be one. And I suggested that maybe that wasn't the best plan, because universities still need support. And these reviews are required, and we support then help also with NASM reviews, and NASM is continuing to work. So I know at least one person's put a name to potentially co-chair, but I would just say, if you're involved in education, please feel free to continue as we've been doing, also to feel comfortable working kind of at the regional level. We have 3 APEC members that sit from GLR right now. So we're a rich region for help for education and training. But I don't know much more than that. I don't know what it looks like for the committee. I'm not sure what it will be or what it will do. So I heartily, as it comes up here, definitely support the new ad hoc committee that Melanie is proposing. I think that positions our region to really be ready to help and support not only professionals working in education, but also the students. As my students have been following a lot of the national things, I have interns freaking out. And I continue to tell them, what I will say is I think we have very excellent documents. And if we all continue to work from our professional competencies, from our code of ethics, from our education and training standards, it will be fine. So it's good space, but I just want to be really transparent that there's unrest within the committee.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you for bringing us up to speed on that and for reaching out to give me that update to share, to ask to give that update. Thank you. Moving forward, actually, let me check the Google form in case there's anything there regarding to this. No, just an additional comment about the dues. Thank you for listening and not responding with a defensive posture, such an important part of this work. All right, thank you for that. Moving forward in our agenda, the next item in old business is Lindsay will touch on the AMTA second quarter dues update and provide an update here. And then Lindsay, I think you can screen share, I believe, yes?
I think so. Okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I do want to share this with you all. So hold on.
Lindsay, I just put it in the chat.
Oh, thanks, Todd.
Yeah,
That's
no problem.
great. Okay. All right. So if you all remember, August 28th, AMTA contacted us to ask us, with the regional dues payment, would we consider donating that payment back to AMTA, or would we consider accepting a deferral of the payment by 6 to 9 months? They understand if we don't. At that time, they sent this table that has, the different amount that they take in, and then the amount that they shift our way. For a professional member, we get 5.85% of the dues paid to AMTA. So you can see the total due to us at that time was $850.50. At that time, we had a town hall to get input from our music therapists living in the region. And there was a poll done to get that input as well. The sentiment from a lot of the folks at the town hall was that they'd like to give AMTA an opportunity to show financials. And so if we could defer it and ask for some of that transparency, that, maybe we could consider to donate it. So then the board met and we voted on this response. So I'm going to just read it. But you all are blocking my, there we go. Okay. So we move that GLR AMTA will defer its second quarter membership dues on the conditions that AMTA, 1, provides a clear, transparent depiction of their current and projected profit, losses, assets, and liabilities. 2, details what fiduciary steps they have taken since May 2022 and how those steps have impacted the current and anticipated financial state of AMTA. And 3, make a commitment to a communication plan for ongoing transparency and monthly detailed financial updates. If these conditions are not met by December 1st, 2022, then the GLR will request full payment of any outstanding membership dues. So that was sent on October 3rd to AMTA. Since then, AMTA has reported either to the community or to GLR. Leslie, the treasurer, sent us on December 1st a very thorough spreadsheet with projected and actual expenses for quarter 4, projected and actual revenue for quarter 4, cash balance and cash flow for quarter 4. AMTA has also shared throughout the last couple months some of the layoffs that have taken place, the close of the physical office, terminating the rental agreement, the final stages of coming to that agreement, ongoing negotiations with the conference hotel, renegotiating consultant agreements, utilizing volunteers to do a lot of the work that had been done by employees in the past. And AMTA has been regularly providing updates. So AMTA treasurer reports were given on December 5th at the assembly meeting. I don't know where that 11.3, I don't know what that means. And December 6th at the AMTA business meetings. Monthly board of directors updates have been published in the news section of the AMTA website as well. And then let's see, I have a slide here of what was shared at those meetings. So you can see at the table in the top left-hand corner, the 2022 budget and 2023 prediction. The comparison in the graph, and then in the footnotes, there are some important information about reductions in payroll and other pieces of information. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we as a group need to make a decision. Where do we go from here?
Thanks, Lindsay, for putting that together. And I will mention, I put that 11/3 date in there as the first date of the business meeting when you asked me to look at the slides earlier. I also want to point out too that we did not ask for AMTA necessarily to outline what they were doing to increase revenue, but it is worth it's very much worth us recognizing that they planned and organized and ran the symposium, which did bring in income. They have applied for significant grants, it's our understanding, and are waiting to hear back on some of those. They continue to work with and cultivate relationships with donors. And there was one other thing. Oh, and also the benefit concert, which is coming up soon. And I don't have that at my fingertips, but if we could put that in the chat, that would be great, just to make sure that everyone is aware of that. So it is important to note also that there have been, definite efforts in and showing us some of the progress in that area as well. So as Lindsay said, we do need to make a decision with the December 1st deadline that has come and gone. Where do we want to go with this bit? We received information from AMTA on October, I think I looked it up today, October 31st, about the third quarter dues. We had an additional 22 members join, and I want to say it was like $200 and some odd dollars that is additional for third quarter dues. We have not received payment for that, and there's not been any mention of payment at this time. When I received the information with the list, I think Rachel and I received the information, and it was shared that they were checking with the treasurer to see if the funds were available or how the funds would be dispersed, and we have not heard anything at this point. So I open it up for discussion as to where and how we would like to move forward with this. I am mindful of time, not because I want to shut down conversations, but because I really, really in my heart of hearts wanted to try and end this meeting in 90 minutes tonight. And I'm not sure that will be possible. But I do, welcome any conversation regarding this topic at this time from those on the call.
I guess I'll break the ice. No, I think we've seen a lot of they gave us a lot of what we were asking for, and that was the point, right? We just wanted to get some of that information so that we could have an understanding of where things were going. So it's appreciated. I think I like that you highlighted, thanks Melanie for highlighting the ways that they're also seeking other revenue sources. That's fantastic. So I think for me, the biggest question would just be, when they first reached out in August, whatever that date was, they said the deferment would be 6 to 9 months. I guess I don't remember if that was from August or when we were supposed to get. I'm guessing it was from that August date, that 6 to 9 months. So I guess my question would be for them, like I'd like to follow up with them, say thank you. We appreciate the continued work to increase that communication transparency. And, can we get an update on the plan? Like where are things at as you've been looking at cash flow? And just kind of what's the plan looking like at that point? That's kind of the main question I have.
Yeah, just to answer your question about the dates, it was August 28th that they said that, and they asked for either a deferment of 6 to 9 months from that date, or for that to be donated back to them.
So if I'm quickly counted the calendar properly on the months, it's looking like February to May-ish is the window, that 6 to 9 months. I think I was just throwing that out there for everyone if I just counted that properly. So, okay.
Anyone else have any thoughts or questions or discussion on this topic?
Thank you, Lindsay, and whoever else helped put the slides together to kind of revamp, like summarize and refresh our memories on exactly what had happened. That was helpful.
So at this time, Lindsay, are you comfortable or one of us comfortable reaching out with kind of that thank you and that follow-up piece? And is the group wanting us to, you know, kind of check in on that time, like on that timeline, like Allison is asking, or are there other action steps that the group would like to see at this point in time?
So I'll chime in. You know, I think the sentiment from a lot of the folks that attended the town hall was that if AMTA was able to show that they were thinking through their finances and working to be viable because they were aware of those numbers, that group was really in favor of using this opportunity to ask for that, but then donating those funds back if AMTA did pull through with that. So I don't know if we still want to go that direction, but you know, maybe AMTA did not provide us all of those points, but I do think that they worked very hard. You know, I'm sure that the budget for 2023 is not accurate because the dues information is maybe not what it's going to end up being, but I do think a lot of effort was put in, and I do think that there's an awareness there of where the organization is. So I don't know if that's helpful. Carol, you have your hand up.
So I don't vote on this, so I can be neutral, okay? I think having an understanding of where something is and having a plan of where to go are different. I also think same conversation, right? Membership worked really hard and theirs didn't go through. So again, maybe I appreciate that they worked hard to put some information together for us. And again, maybe I haven't been at the right meetings. Okay, so I'll preface with that. I don't see any direction, clear forward plan direction to have things going on the right path, coming down to regular members. And especially if I weren't on this meeting, no, it's not enough yet. It's not enough. And if there is plans, it's not transparent enough. It's not reaching everybody. And if anyone who's especially paid members should know exactly. It should be trickling to anyone who could be a paid member. So I feel like that effort isn't in the space that I would be looking for yet to be like, absolutely, let's continue to invest. Just an opinion.
Thank you for sharing, Carol, and that's what this space is for. So I appreciate you being willing to speak out. I am going to go to the Google form because there are a couple of things here. I want to make sure we read everything. I don't want to go backwards, but someone did state, I don't believe the dues issue is a white supremacy / white privilege decision that was made. To be a fiscally sound organization, difficult decisions have to be made. AMTA needs to be held accountable, and it needs to be set in solid stone to get this to actually happen. This needs to happen for everyone. The next comment is, given our financial standing as a region and that AMTA provided the information and is making good steps to be more transparent, I'd be fine donating the funds to them as it may help the greater good. Our next statement is a comment actually from Chelsea. I strongly disagree about the denial of the undertones of white supremacy in deliberation processes this week. The system we operate in is rooted in white supremacy, whether or not we are conscious of it. I encourage all of us to dig into Oaken, I think it's Oaken, is that how you say the name? White supremacy culture information and engage in self-reflection. And thank you for that reference, Chelsea. And if you have any access to that and you want to share that in the chat, feel free to drop that in the chat for others to refer to as well. If we were to donate any funds, we would need to do a percentage. It is in the budget and we shouldn't have to fix AMTA's problems by ourselves. That's the next comment. Are there any additional comments on this?
Lindsay, do you mind, I know you've told us this a bunch of times and I know it's not a huge number, but do you mind refreshing our memory of what we were anticipating receiving again, the amount from the dues? Was it like between second and third quarter, is it going to be like it's under 1,000, right?
$850.50.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Everyone's kind of being quiet and I don't want to talk a lot. Part of me feels like I appreciate a lot of the feedback on both ends, and part of me is wondering if just kind of waiting, a month or two before making the donate back or not decision. I'm just throwing things out there. I honestly don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. That's where I'm personally at. I guess I don't have, I'm not speaking for or against anything at this point. I'm feeling kind of go out anyway.
Does anyone else have any thoughts?
I didn't raise my hand. Sorry, Emily. I'm torn. I really am. We asked them to meet certain things, and some of them they have, some of them they haven't. Some of it we've had to ask for and ask for and ask for, and then finally got it. As Carol says, we only got it because we asked for it, but who else is seeing this information? That's a very good point. AMTA is not serving the GLR board, they're serving AMTA. So I'm torn. I really am. The other side of this is I think about our charter that we have with AMTA, and are we legally bound to eventually give the money back to them in any way? We're not. Okay. Just wanted to ask that. I didn't think we were, but had to ask. It's only $800 or so. And we do have it. And would it be a good faith? Yes. But at the same time, we need to see more. We need to see more. We were just talking about so many other things related to equity that have got to change. And by continuing to give financial support to AMTA, then things like that can come to fruition. So I don't know, y'all. I'm just torn. I don't know what to do. And I'm listening to everyone else talk through this and just trying to grapple with what's the right thing to do.
So we don't have a motion on the table in any sense. We are not necessarily voting on anything in per se with this topic. Dr. Becca or Dr. Barnard, at this point, is it okay to move on in the agenda and kind of do we want to hold off on this conversation? Do we want to pause the conversation? I guess what will be the best things from a standpoint of the process that we are in right now? She might have had to hop off. I know she's got some extra stuff going on here too. Let's see. Do I have anyone else has thoughts on this specifically about best ways forward at this point? Lindsay, do you have any thoughts on what you would recommend as our treasurer?
I don't think we're hurting for the $850, and I think it'd be interesting to know what the plan is for the fourth quarter dues. I do see Carol put a comment in the chat. Motion should be made to table the discussion.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can absolutely make a motion to table the discussion. You know, really again, the letter that we sent said, I'm going to pull it back up and just tell you exactly. We move that it's deferred. If these conditions are not met by December 1st, then the GLR will request full payment of any outstanding membership dues. So, you know, that said that we would request full payment if the conditions weren't met. I think it's somewhat subjective. You know, is the budget that was shared for 2023, would you consider that a budget? Like, we're about to talk about the GLR budget. I wouldn't really consider that a budget. But it's the start of a budget. It's more than we've had in the past. You know, I'm just being honest. So, you know, I think an effort was made. Do we want to ask for those funds now? I think that's really where we're at and the decision to be made. We can table the discussion and decide whether we're going to donate it or request it at the 6 or 9 month mark. But I do kind of think that we need to make a decision on whether we're going to request it right now. Todd has his hand up.
Thanks, Lindsay. I was just gonna kind of reiterate a lot of the things you just said. I don't know, can we maybe do like a pulse to see where the voting members may be on what we may want to do? Can we do an anonymous poll just to get an idea? If folks want to move forward with giving the money back to AMTA or not giving the money back to AMTA, and then that might kind of give us an idea too.
Erica has her hand up.
Hey, I just have a question. Can you please reiterate to me what it was again that they AMTA hasn't gotten back to us about, like, that we were still waiting? Because I know there were like a whole bunch of questions. What is still looming out there?
Like I said, it's somewhat subjective. So we just talked about they haven't gotten back to us on fourth quarter payments, but in our like request of different things.
Did they not have the answers, or?
Well, like I said, it depends on whether you can consider the budget that they shared a budget.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on, you know, we got we got a very detailed spreadsheet. It was only for the quarter four. So there was a graph that had some of the revenue and expenses for 2022. So like I said, I think it's subjective. We requested a lot of stuff. I think we got a lot of stuff. Is it enough for this group? If that's not my decision to make. Anthony.
Hi, I just wanted to draw to attention the fact that Leslie Henry has been in her current role for 6 weeks as treasurer, and the fact that she did have an opportunity to pull the information requested together, whether or not that is considered a budget, should be highlighted. And the call for follow through and transparency that has been heard over and over again tonight, and the lack thereof historically from AMTA. And then when they do have follow through and do have transparency, that is then called into question of whether is that enough? Are they sharing it with us? Are they sharing it with everyone? Those were not explicitly stated in your request. You were asked for that information to be shared with the GLR, and that information was shared with the GLR. It was not a request to be made to share it with all of AMTA. So I think the subjectiveness that is being brought into question is kind of out of line, in my opinion.
Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. At this time, I do believe I have a poll. If the group is comfortable, the question is very simple. Would you like to ask for the dues from AMTA at this time? If yes, no. The third option I wrote is I choose not to share my opinion at this time. If you don't feel comfortable or not in a position to share this. So I will ask the group, because I just want to make sure that we do this in the way that the group wants to. Is this a poll that we would like for everyone on this call to answer, or we would like our the voting voices to answer, just so that I'm laying things out the way that they are intended here?
I think it would be nice for everyone to be able to respond.
Great, thank you for that. And I see some heads bobbing as well. So we'll go ahead and I will launch that poll. And it looks like we have a couple more people coming in. If you're not able to vote, it's possible the co-hosts are not able to vote. Lindsay, why don't I take that? Remove co-host. Do I have any other co-hosts on the call that are not able to vote?
Elaine, I can't vote.
Okay, let me change that. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So it looks like there have been 29 out of 32 have participated. Are there any other last thoughts? All right, then I will end the poll. I'll share results so that you're all able to see. 9 out of 29 respondents saying yes, they would like to ask for the dues this time. 19 out of 29 saying no, would not like to ask for the dues, and 1 out of 29 of us saying, or voices saying, not sharing an opinion. So. Okay, I'll stop sharing that.
Allison has her hand up.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm not trying to rush anything, but I'm willing to make a motion if that's cool. I move that we, let me think wording. Go with my gut. If someone has a suggestion, I'll take it. But I move that we we honor the deferment for the 6 to 9 months, and see what comes next. I don't know if that's good wording.
Got to start somewhere with the wording. Thank you for being willing to do that. Do I have a second on that motion? And I'm sure you're going to put it in the chat for us. Do I have a second on that motion?
A second. Erica.
Great, thank you, Erica. All right, any further discussion? Scanning my pages, just make sure I don't miss anything. Any hands raised? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. And as a reminder, we're looking for executive board voting members at this time. Our state presidents are appointed officers and our elected officers. All right. May lower hands. Anyone opposed? Okay, looks like we have 2 hands raised. We have lower hands. Oh, I'm trying to lower hands, sorry. And any abstentions? Okay, looks like the motion carries to continue with the deferment for the 6 to 9 month period, as in the initial request from AMTA. Thank you for your time and your discussion on that. All right, moving along in our agenda, our next item will be the 2023 GLR budget. I'm mindful of the time, and so I want to put it to the group whether or not they would like to continue on with this agenda, or whether or not they would like and extend time because we're 15 minutes past our meeting ending time, or if they would like to continue at another date and time. And so I'll put that to the group. I think that's something for the group to decide and not for me to decide. So I welcome your thoughts and feedback on that. I'm going to just toggle over to the Google group or Google Forms to make sure I'm not missing anything. And please feel free to speak out about whether we would like to continue on with this meeting or if we would like to take pause and take pause. I'm going to go back and read a couple more additional comments. I believe the last comment, the next comment that has not been read is an anonymous comment. Not every comment / issue is about white supremacy, white privilege. I have done and continue to do searching of my biases on a daily basis. That's my job as a human being.
Sorry, if I may, I'd like to respond to that specifically. I think that, yes, two truths can operate at the same time. You know, we can be doing our internal process and work, and we can still be compliant in a system that's harmful. And I also want to, I want to encourage us to stray away from binary thinking, because the binary, and this is not every issue or comment is about white supremacy, and that's a binary thought, because two truths can still exist at the same time. And also, I did want to emphasize that my role in the region is DEIAJ lens and perspective. And so when I share my reflections with you humbly, and I share my call-ins humbly, and I encourage introspection, because yes, and I'll say it again, two truths can exist at the same time. You are doing work. I know everybody here does work every day as a human and as a music therapist. And so I think that there's always more to look for. And I definitely want to share that perspective and that side of things with all of you. Definitely am not a person to blame or to label anybody else. I'm not calling anybody racist. No, not one time, and would I ever do so. But I again want to chew on the processes and how sometimes we get stuck and why that could be. And I do want to thank that person for sharing that, because I also want to uplift how you shared that you are doing the work, and I say keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. The next comment is, I like Carol's response. There's improvement in communication. We want it to continue and improve, especially to all members before deciding about the funds, since GLR doesn't need it to continue to wait, continue to wait, which I apologize. I should have looked back on this before we made that vote. But thank you for sharing that. And the next one is, it seems like since we said we would be willing to defer payment, we could vote to continue to defer for the 6 to 9 months. Perhaps we would ask for the information that has been transparent to us, be made public. And if that happens, we could donate the funds back. Again, thank you for that feedback. I will share that the financial information that was shared with me by Treasurer Henry on the 1st was also shared with Assembly. I don't know who else received it or how far or wide it went in that regard. But there also were, bits of that information shared in the business meeting reports that have been shared recently as well. The next comment is, isn't Leslie Henry the AMTA treasurer from our region? Is there a reason to not trust that she will share this info? Yes, Leslie Henry is a member of our region, a longstanding member, one that has contributed greatly in many ways. Is there a reason to not trust that she will share this? No, there is not a specific reason to not trust that she will share this information. I think the trust issues might be just bigger as an organization based on what the feedback that I've received. I think it's bigger, not just one person as much as the organization and the structure of the organization. At least that's the read that I have had on it. If someone else feels differently, feel free. It is not a personal trust. For me personally, I can wholeheartedly say it is not a personal trust issue at all. The next one is Anthony. Hold on, Anthony. Thank you. All right. And then one final thought about the membership discussion. The word perfectionism came up several times. It was and is my perspective that several rather significant conversations were brought up in discussion that did not have answers, not that they were nitpicky or perfectionist. Thank you for sharing that. I will just say I am open to the feedback of using this form in this way. I hope that everyone has, I hope that all can benefit from having it accessible to them to see the responses, and I appreciate that feedback that we received. All right, so it looks like I'm just kind of trying to catch up on whether or not we want to continue on. I thought it went to 10 p.m. I think Eastern time, so I'm good with continuing. Kelly mentioned, excuse me. Am I hearing or seeing any objections to continuing? I'm scrolling my pages, and then we will continue on. So Lindsay, I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host again, and we will go ahead with our conversations around the 2023 GLR budget.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to put some links into the chat. Okay, let's see if this, yeah, it works. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share the budget and talk through a couple changes since the last time we spoke. Here we go. So yeah, you all have seen this before. There we go. So this budget does have a deficit. I'm going to scroll to the bottom to show you. There's a loss of almost $40,000 in this budget. I think that we do typically have a loss projected of close to $20,000 to $25,000, and typically we make money. So we're a very conservative region. But I do think that this is a time to be careful with not really knowing, you know, what the revenue is going to look like for the year. So with dues especially. So I have kept dues as 0 just because we don't really know what's going to happen with that. So, and I'd rather us be conservative. All right, some changes that have been made since we last talked. I'm going to slowly scroll, so if you have a question, you can ask too. Slowly. Okay, so right here, I want to highlight these 4 rows. We have added into the budget different events for the 70th GLR conference. We want to make sure that we're giving back to all the volunteers and past officers and that sort of thing. So there is more than there typically would be in terms of meals and entertainment. And those are pulled into this budget rather than in the conference budget. So those are all separate lines, so you can really see exactly, you know, what's happening with each expense. So that's new. In addition, accounting. So this is something we definitely need to talk about, because when we decide to approve this budget, this is a big change that's going to happen. So accounting for a typical year with Arrow bookkeeping is going to be $1,000 to $1,250 a year. Now, because they haven't been classifying 2022, they will bill us for 2 years in 2023, because they will classify and they will summarize 2022 finances, and then throughout 2023 they will be classifying within QuickBooks as we go. They will also be using their desktop software instead of the what we've been doing is all the regions had gone together on a QuickBooks subscription that is not available anymore. So what they've talked about is sending us quarterly snapshots, and you know, we can ask for balance sheets, we can ask for you know, a side-by-side with our budget and how we're doing with our budget. So they'll send us whatever reports we ask for. We could ask for monthly, that would cost a little bit more money. We feel like quarterly will work fine for our needs as a region. We still will have access to all the bank accounts, and so we can see what's happening financially by going to a specific bank account. Additionally, if Arrow bookkeeping, if we decide to continue with them on an ongoing basis, Arrow bookkeeping will have access to, they've asked for a read-only sign on to our bank accounts. So that way they're easily classifying stuff instead of asking us questions constantly. So this will help them be more efficient, which will cost us less money. They've also talked about the QuickBooks desktop version that they have access to, that we will not have access to if we go that route, versus having a QuickBooks subscription online through TechSoup. TechSoup costs us, I think it was $75 a year, but it's not as efficient as their desktop version. So we would be charged more money based on labor expenses because it's harder for them to classify everything. So, you know, these are all somewhat big changes. We've talked a lot about volunteers doing so much work, and the responsibility that that it is to ensure that our taxes are correct and that our 501c3 status is protected. Just speaking as, you know, a volunteer treasurer that is not an accountant, that's a lot to ask from a volunteer who may not be an expert. I am definitely not an expert. So this is about the same amount of money that we've been paying. We've just been sending this information to AMTA, and then AMTA has been contracting directly with Arrow Bookkeeping. So this has us directly interacting with Arrow instead of going through AMTA, and it costs about the same amount as what we've been paying anyhow, and it takes away our QuickBooks annual fee. So that's a big change, and I want to highlight it. And if anybody has questions about it, you know, I might go ahead and stop sharing, because those are the big changes. And you all have access. So does anybody have any questions or any thoughts about any of those changes, ideas?
Lindsay, I will bring up one budget related. I'm jumping ahead here in the Google form because I see this is budget related, but I will go back and read the other couple comments that have come in that are on a different topic. But one comment that came in, and honestly, is I find it interesting that there are high budget lines for food. Is that due to the celebratory nature of this year, or is it typical? It just seems like a lot of money. Yeah, and I'm happy to speak to that. Or Lindsay, you can, either way.
I don't mind. Yeah, those are higher than normal. Typically, I think it's $1,300. So it's because of the celebratory nature of having the 70th year anniversary. And it's also because we have asked volunteers to do a lot in the last couple years, and we feel it makes sense to thank those volunteers. So it makes sense to do a little more than we typically would. So I think it's the combination of those two things. I don't know, Melaine, if you want to add any more to that.
Yeah, I'll just add in that, you know, this is obviously up for discussion. We have the celebratory nature of the 70th, and we are looking to bring back, and we have in the budget, inviting some past presidents for the region and including them in our program at the luncheon on Saturday. So that is additional expense that you see there. One additional thing is I have included in that budget number lunch on Thursday, which obviously in the past has started off as a strategic planning in the morning and an exec board meeting in the afternoon. This year, I'd like to mix that up a little bit. I'd like for the morning and the afternoon on Thursday to include our leadership team that consists of all the people on this call, as well as our incoming officers. And I'd like for that to be, I've been working with President-elect Todd Schwartzberg to think about kind of a little bit of a leadership team retreat and / meeting time, right? A chance for us to work together, to connect together face to face across the table for those of us that are able to be there, But also, maybe have some bits of training and some bits of insight and some team building and some of those things that are super helpful and beneficial for our work together. So that lunch cost is higher because I have included everyone that would include, and that could be up to 35 people if they chose to attend. Now, do I think everyone will be able to attend? Not necessarily, but I would like to budget so that we are prepared for that if they are able to come and be a part of that time. And the third piece of it is, we took the strategic planning piece out of Thursday morning, and I'm going to add in a strategic planning kind of check-in and thank you meal to say thank you. We have never met, obviously, as a group together face to face. We've all been box to box next to each other across the screen, and I know that group has put a lot of time in, and we want to be mindful of being able to come together and reflect on the work that we've done. And the final piece that I'll share is that usually the president has a reception that the leadership is invited to, I strongly feel that it's not just leadership that should be invited to that reception this year. The region would not be where it is right now and not being able to function as it is without a very, very long list of, I think it's close to 90 to 100 volunteers. And so it is, it's my intent and my hope that we can bring that group of volunteers together and invite them to a reception. Likely, I think we're thinking Friday evening after the business meeting. It would be a light reception where there would be food offered, and it's a time for us to show as a region our appreciation for the conference planners. And that's conference planners from everybody from a co-chair all the way down to those that were, anonymous reviewers for programs. Everybody who helped with strategic planning, people who were in listening sessions, all types of things. I think it's important for us to bring together that group of volunteers and to be together in a room and to say thank you. And I am hopeful that we can do that. That this group will approve that if it seems appropriate to them. Thank you for that question, though. Allison, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say regarding Kay and Arrow bookkeeping, and being part of the finance committee and hearing a little bit about it, but also just Lindsay and Malene, what you've shared, seems like Kay has been just an invaluable resource, like super responsive, definitely on top of making sure we do things right. And it's the yearly rate, that $1,000 to $1,250, the $1,000 to $1,250, seems very reasonable to me. So I guess I'm speaking in favor of moving forward with going with them directly and in the most efficient way possible. So just with their QuickBooks and all of that, it just seems to make the most sense. And there's no, I have faith that that's a good decision for our region. So.
Well, and I will say that Kay is going to send us a document that includes all of our past financials. Allison, I know you had mentioned that in the past as a concern. So we'll have all of that on hand. If we decide this isn't working out, we'll have it. And, so we're not going to lose any of that information from QuickBooks.
Sorry, one other thought with I think quarterly statements are also probably sufficient. It seems like I'm guessing that the thing that's got the most moving parts in the budget is probably conference stuff, and we keep a separate kind of thing for that anyway. And so I don't see a problem with that.
I'm sure she'll have recommendations on how we classify all those conference expenses and transactions.
I'm anticipating that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone else on the call? And I'm going to toggle back here and see if there's anything else that's related to the budget.
Kelly put in the chat.
Okay.
Food
Oh,
costs
yes.
at this hotel are on the lower side, and then she listed that the costs are $30 to $33, and typically those would be 45 plus.
Yes. And, obviously the more people we try and feed is the more it goes. So to give you an estimate, we're thinking about 15 to 20 past presidents that we'll be paying for lunch for on Saturday. I believe the list of volunteers for the potential reception and appreciation reception is about 90. Now, not everybody will come, but that's the number that I have as a big master list. And also the strategic planning group is about 20 people, 20 to 25 people. So there's a pretty big village of people that I think we can give back to in a tiny way. It's the least we can do. I don't see anything else in the group or the Google form that is related to budget.
Well, and I don't know if I said this to start with, but this is the start of a budget. We make changes all throughout the year. We can not only add new revenue pieces as we have ideas and we have proposals that come to the board. But if conference, doesn't make as much money as we typically make, and we decide that we can't afford a lot of the items that we have in the budget, we can also take them away later. So this is a living document and it can continue to change. So yeah, I just want to add that piece. And also thank you to Todd and Allison. The finance committee was so helpful in creating this. So I really appreciate your help. And Todd has his hand up.
It was very kind of you to say, but Lindsay, your leadership as our treasurer, your incredible business acumen, your kindness, your collaborativeness, we're lucky to get to have you. It's been a privilege to get to work with you and Allison and learn from you too. I wanted to ask so one of the things that's on my mind as I look towards next year, and Melaine and I have talked about this a little bit, is continuing to show our commitment to a couple very, very important things. One of those is obviously our ongoing DEI AJ work. And another one of those things is what I know is important to Melaine, and that is cultivating the future of our diverse leadership. And so I'm wondering if we might be able to add a line that is something like, or maybe two lines, one that goes under where our DEI AJ folks are, and a line under where the leadership is, leadership training is, that holds us accountable to write grants, to seek grants, so we can commit hard money to those things. And that's in the budget. And we're going to talk about approving that hopefully in a second, but also committing like a soft money expectation. Just because we write a grant doesn't mean we'll get it, but I want to show our commitment in many ways. And I think one way that we can do it is by promising that myself or whomever else would like to join me. I hope it can be collaborative, especially I'm looking at my amazing DEI AJ folks. I don't want you to do the work. That's not what I'm asking, but I can't do it alone. Let's seek grants. Let's find ways to make sure that we have money coming in to do what we need to do to continue the learning, continue the growing, continue the transformative process of making our region better. So I wanted to throw it out there. I don't know where that can go in the budget or how folks are feeling about that. And like you said, it is a fluid process too. So we don't have to make that decision tonight, but it is something that is extremely important to me going forward. Awesome. Under contributions. Perfect. Thanks, Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also add into, I mentioned in my report that I had been in touch with the mentoring committee and a group that has taken that on in recent years. And they did put forth a budget of just under $2,000 that they would anticipate with expenses. Some of those things were, that is not currently reflected in this budget. I spoke with Jeff Wolf on the phone today after he submitted the budget to me, and we kind of agreed that we agreed that there needed to be a tighter plan for the mentoring program going forward before we allocated those funds. And I think that's where this living, breathing document that Lindsay's mentioning and talking of can come into play, that we can, as things evolve and become a little maybe clear as to what direction they're going, then we can put that money into the budget. And all those funds that he mentions as expenses are not all necessarily going to have to happen. Some of them more tech related that they already fall into some of the things that we have in Zoom and Google and things like that. So they are in our website presence and things like that. Some of the things are, whether we're in person or not in person, the goal is to maybe have a more clear plan in the first couple of months of next year, and to also ask for interest, and then have a training for the mentors in, hopefully, Jeff mentioned maybe something like late spring, but hopefully there'll be more to report on that. So that is another budget piece coming down the pipe, I think, but it didn't feel comfortable putting it in at this time, given that we had so much uncertainty. And I was, at that point, I was still waiting to hear back from a couple of folks as well. So update on that. A question in the Google form says, will there be any fundraising GLR merchandising efforts with this being 70 years? At this point, I am not aware of any, but that doesn't mean that there can't be. I don't, we're open to suggestions with that. I think whether it be the pay it forward that we do and give back to students, or if there's something special with that. My conference planners, I don't know if there's anything specific planned in process right now. Yeah, anyone who wants to take the reins, go for it. I know that there is a committee of folks that have been working on the 70th anniversary pieces, and we can kind of see if they have any thoughts as well. But at this time, I'm not aware of anything, but if you have ideas, feel free, please, to share them, and to we can also think about where that money will go and how it would be used if it did come in.
As for the pay it forward, that is something that is, we do have that set up for registration, and we had intended for it to go to the students and interns. So.
Perfect. All right, is there any further discussion or thoughts on this budget as it reads currently? Yes, Chelsea mentioned there is some great merch that MTAS has. Maybe Bernadette has some tips, or maybe Olivia has some tips from her MTAS experience as well. But we're definitely open to possibilities. Seeing no additional questions or conversation around this this proposed budget, do I have a motion? Or I will entertain a motion.
I don't know if it should come from me. Does that matter? I don't mind moving. All right, I move that we vote on accepting the proposed budget for 2023.
Second, Erica.
All right, so we have a motion from Lindsay, and we have a second from Erica. Any further discussion? This time we'll go ahead and entertain a vote then. All in favor of the proposed budget for GLR 2023 fiscal year, please raise your hand. That's 15 raised hands. You may lower hands. Anyone opposed? Looks like I have one hand still raised. I'm not sure if that was from, is that a no vote or a hand that was, oh, okay. All right. Totally fine if it's a no vote. I just want to make sure I count it the right way. All right, so there are no no votes. That was eloquent. And any abstentions? All right, the motion carries with 15 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. All right, thank you so much to the committee that did the work on that. We're grateful. We obviously look forward to seeing how it lives and breathes with us next year as a document. All right, moving on with our new business, the GLR call for service. I shared a document with you, which is in a draft form. There are a lot of positions to share with our membership and our community about ways to get involved. And it is my hope that we can get this out. I just would like to get a little bit of feedback from the board, whether or not we want to maintain the same structures for doing that and processes for doing that we have in the past. I'm mindful that I want to make sure that any presidential appointments that occur within the GLR, which happen with your approval, that they happen in a way that is setting people up for success and is helping, and hopefully we can do as much as we possibly can to ensure that they are going to be in a safe space, in a safe position, knowing that we are in times of transformative change and a lot of work. That's both time, physical and emotionally taxing as well. So just to kind of give you a rundown, I do have openings. I think you'll see at the beginning, at the top of that document that I shared. Let me see if I have everything open right this second. Yes, I can share with you. This is in the agenda. You'll see this, this document linked. And currently we have openings for a government relations rep, a research committee rep, an internship approval committee rep, and also the AMTA DEI committee rep. At the GLR level, we are looking to build the communications team, committee, I should say, that was put into the bylaws. We're looking to, I know the DEI committee has a call ready to go out for additional members in their committee. We'd like to, as we continue to rebuild and reboot the mentoring program, we'd like to take on additional bring on additional volunteers for that committee. And as Todd mentioned, also those that might be interested in grant writing. So this document, usually in a typical call in the past, we've asked people to, for an AMTA committee position, we've asked them to, check out the description of the work, the qualifications and how, and we have asked them to share a letter of interest as well as their CV. Usually then I bring that information and then bring a recommendation to the board and you kind of help to choose which person seems like a better fit for the position. The GLR committees are very fluid right now because they are, the processes and structures from which they operate are being, created because those are brand new committees. So that's very much kind of a call for interest, just to be engaged and to be a part of that work kind of from the ground floor right now. So my question to you tonight, and I'm looking for feedback, is what sort of processes do we feel comfortable with? And I know that other regions are having a significant amount of, it's a challenge to get people to necessarily step up right now and feel comfortable to be in those roles. It's a vulnerable place to be in a position of leadership and service at this time. And we want to do so, in a way that we can nurture and protect and look out for everybody as well, and that human side of us. So does anyone have any feedback or thoughts specifically on, and this is something we can think over, has to be decided tonight. I welcome, thoughtful reflection on this. But if people have specific ideas, I'm willing to take those in the comments or in the Google form as well tonight. I'm going to toggle over here to group or to the Google form here. So seeing no conversation coming up instantly. I wouldn't expect that, but I'm hoping that if you want to reflect on this, that's something we can visit, possibly over, open to that interaction and feedback over email. I would like to get a call for service out for these things, but I also want to be mindful of it and how we do it. So if there are thoughts, please let me know. And I welcome any sort of feedback you might have. And if you know folks that might be good for these positions, please encourage them to participate if you feel that's appropriate at this time for them or a good idea.
Elaine, a comment did just pop up in the Google. I'll go ahead and read it if that's okay. It says,
Absolutely.
are you looking for student reps for the GLR specific committees?
Yes, for sure. I would love to have more interaction from the students. I think that's something that we have really benefited from, having Olivia and Jaden as voting members on our board in recent years. And so I would for sure welcome that, that opportunity. Students and interns, I think. I don't think anyone should be hesitant to put their names forward. We'd love to have you. Thank you, Allison. All right, well, seeing no further discussion, I will just kind of let that sit as new business to kind of percolate on. The Zoom access, you have access to that document as well, I think, from the chat. This was brought up to us by Allison Darren from Ohio. I know she's not with us tonight, but I believe her VP, yes, I think it's Ashley is here with us tonight. And so this is something that came up with the state organization's question, asking if they could access our our Zoom account, and whether that was something we could help, kind of provide as a service to them. So I did a little bit of digging and a little kind of a dive into our Zoom account. You have access to this document. I'm going to go ahead and screen share it here for these purposes of this conversation. And just at the top, you'll see a little bit of a document that shares what we have. We currently have a webinar license for 500 people. We do take advantage of the nonprofit organization rates. We have 2 large meeting licenses that actually just expired. We had purchased that for symposium. So this is actually now out of date, I see, since I had put it together. We also have 2 Zoom One Pro licenses, and that allows us to have meetings. One of those licenses is for conference, and one of them is our general GLR account. We have the ability to have chats on those, 100 attendees, the Zoom whiteboard, and storage on the cloud. We our current package with them expires in April of 2023, so we would pay them again in April. A little bit of information from the states. 5 of our 6 states currently use Zoom. 1 state they use Google, and kind of back and forth between Teams and Google. 3 of the 6 have their own Zoom accounts. We have a wide range of amounts of people and attendees at these state events. Can be up to a small group, up to 300 participants. Some have standing meeting times, which could make things interesting in terms of scheduling amongst the states. So I share with you here that this is let's see if I can make this bigger for you. Hold on. Can I? Oh, I don't know if I can. So I'll just share with you. I'm sorry, I'm not having the ability to make it larger for you right now. Our Zoom One Pro account is $209 per year. That's for the 2 licenses. One is conference, one is the general one. And then we have the large webinar, which is, we have 1 license of that, which is will be due in April of next year. And that is the $690. So the question has come up whether or not the GLR would be able to help fund a license or share a license, or how that would work. And so I shared with you a little bit about what we have, and if we were to add on. We currently have the 2 licenses. If we were to add a license for each state, you can see that our cost would go up significantly, right? And we would have an annual payment is that $839? Yes, my eyes are getting tired and this won't get bigger, so I apologize. And my battery just is about to go, so we're gonna have to plug that in for a second. But anyway, so we have that option. Or if we were to go and just get an additional Zoom license, would we be able to just have that additional license be shared amongst the states? And it would take some additional collaboration from us and coordination from us to make that happen. So we could make sure there are no schedule conflicts or things like that. So at this point, I will stop screen sharing. I think our questions here really are whether or not we want to add an additional license or licenses, and if the states think that that would be beneficial. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing that with me now that I've stopped screen sharing. I apologize, and now I'll learn that. I will go back and practice that. I'm going to copy and paste that so I can do that after this call. So does anyone have any additional specific thoughts on this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think, I'm pretty sure here in Wisconsin, I mean, we do use Zoom for like our monthly meetings and stuff. And I mean, we're using the free version and it's been working fine for us. So what would be the benefit of coming on to the bigger account with GLR?
I imagine, and I need to go and look at the freed version, imagining it's the time limit, which it looks like.
Oh,
Elizabeth
yeah,
just put that in. So the time limit is one thing, and I imagine there could be some storage limitations as well if you were recording or storing anything. I don't have that in front of me to Allison. Could I task you to bring that up or maybe look that up for me real quick? But I think those are the two things that jump in my mind as the top things.
Weird. Okay. I know we've been able to do more than 40 minutes. I'm going to have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure we're not paying.
My experience, am I muted or can you hear me?
No, you're good, Ashley.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to check. In my experience, our meetings last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours. As we all know, meetings are chaotic right now. However, I think with the standard free account, it is 40 minutes. If you have a university affiliated account, or if you're a business owner and you lend out your account, then there's no specific time limit. I know in the past we've had certain board members offer up their board or their Zoom account, and it's just not necessarily the best use of their resources.
And the quickest search with my cat walking across my keyboard. It looks like, yeah, you can host up to 100 participants, unlimited meetings for up to 40 minutes, automated captions, 25 MB megabyte. That's what that stands for, of cloud storage. Where like with the pro license, you get 5 gigabytes of cloud storage, 25 megabytes is small. So I think the biggest things probably are the time limit and the storage are probably the biggest differences.
Thank you, Allison, for doing that. I think what I would like to suggest is Mia is mentioning Illinois has their own pro account and we are on board simply to cut the cost and appreciate this being discussed. I would like to ask the board to consider giving back to the states by offering a license to share. I don't know that I don't know that we want to commit to the multiple licenses or a license for each state, not knowing how much it would be used. But I also wonder if we could, try this out with one shared license. And maybe it's something that, we as a region offer as a service to the states. I think that's something for us to decide. I don't know that necessarily even has to be shared. I'm of the mindset that this is a way for us to give back to our state organizations. So I'd be curious how the board would feel about the additional price of in our budgeting. And I guess maybe we should have had this discussion before the budget, Lindsay, but do we want to add in a Zoom license that could be shared? That being said, I also recognize that there could be some growing pains with this, and that we would want to make sure that we can work out the logistics of how it could be used and shared in the most effective way. So I don't know if the board will feel comfortable with us moving forward with this without those things being figured out, but I open that up to you all for discussion. I'm just going to read a little bit from the chat here. Ashley mentions, well, first of all, Lindsay says living document, laugh out loud for sure. And Ashley mentions, I think a shared Google Calendar where states could sign up first come first serve would work, along with an email chain. For sure, that is an option. The GLR, in my president's Google account, I do use a Google Calendar that could be a kind of a clearinghouse for that, right? Whether it's submitting something on a form and it goes out. And I know that there are plans with Julie to get that calendar to be widespread amongst all the regional or all the state presidents, so that there can be sharing of just dates and information, but also that would be a place to have that. And yes, I just saw Olivia's pop up. Would this be accessible to students as well? For sure. We can use a Zoom calendar scheduling. There are definitely options. Elizabeth mentions that's exactly what I was thinking of. And also it does list the scheduled meetings. Probably the biggest thing is I think that I would ask that one person be the point person to be connecting and scheduling the meetings, so that we don't have too many hands in the Zoom account. And I want to make sure that, just that everything lines up, right? So rather than having, we could have one person kind of be that clearinghouse to make sure the dates all work and set that meeting up and send the link, if that makes. Mia mentioned, or excuse me, President-elect Todd mentions the states and students could use breakout rooms. If there were events happening at the same time, breakout rooms certainly could be utilized. That's definitely another option to think about. Yeah. I'm going to toggle over. Allison, can you tell me if there's anything in the Google form that I need to be aware of with regards to this topic?
I have not seen anything come through.
Okay. So, remind me, I want to make sure I am prepared in the right way moving forward procedurally. If this is coming as a suggestion from me, is a motion necessary? I don't know that our Becca's here. I just want to make sure I'm going about things in the right way. Or what's the best protocol here? I should have looked that up. Anybody?
Melaine, I'm going to take a go at it. I think since we just recently passed the budget, even if it might make feel, I don't know. Even just a quick little motion, just saying we would like to amend the budget. We just did it to allow for the states to have access to a Zoom account, and for our states and the student organization to have access to a Zoom account.
Wait, you have to put how much money?
Oh, you got to help me with that. Sorry.
Okay.
So I'll change the budget if if this passes.
Okay.
If you tell me how much.
All right. So we need to go back to that.
Allison, what was it? Do you have it? You don't?
I mean, I've got the thing Melaine shared.
So if we went to three licenses, our annual bill would be $314.79, which currently is $209.
So do we need to go to 7 licenses? If we
I
need
think the thought is that
6 states and students?
we are doing one license that would be shared. Am I correct? And that's
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had it right. Okay. I don't mean
I guess my only other question would be, and this is something, if the money's in the budget and we don't use it, that's great. To consider, are we using the webinar or not? Because we can drop that, and that's a good chunk of change that's coming up in April. So I think we're paid through the year. But you know, I don't know how much we're using the webinar. And so I wonder, you know, could we, maybe that might be something to consider. Like this would be a much better use of the funds to help our states out, help our students out, and you know, just a thought.
Yeah, on that note, we have $1,200 for Zoom for 2023. And hold on, I just had it up. We spent $1,050 in 2022 with the different add-ons and stuff that we ended up using.
Okay. And
Lindsay,
yes, we could definitely use this for breakout rooms for state meetings, for sure. That could be utilized. And if someone was having a larger conference type thing and they needed a webinar, then that's where that can come in, right? If they have more than that, those 100 people. Amy, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Lindsay, did you say 1,200 was budgeted? Okay, because
Yes.
I had just typed in the minutes that 690 was what we were paying for the large webinar. So if it was 314 for 3 licenses, we'd be under that amount anyways, right?
Yeah, I think we spent more because we added on the large webinar, and we
Correct.
added on multiple licenses. I
We
think
increased capacity. So the licenses
okay.
cover 100. And then when it came to like, we could, because you can do that kind of ad hoc where a month at a time, periodically, you know, we bump it up to the 500 or the 1,000, whatever the capacity is, so that we have enough space for conferences, or I think the symposium. I think those were some of the things it was the capacity we increased. Which it's nice that you can do that when needed and then not, so we can be smart with the money that way too.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to add an additional Zoom license to the GLR account. That will be for the purpose of our state organizations and our AMTAS organization to use on an ongoing basis for the 2023 calendar year.
So moved. Oh, Ashley beat me to it. Ashley and Olivia are on it. Fantastic. Use them.
Yes. Okay, Ashley, it's yours. It's you. You got it. Way to go. I move to amend the budget to add an additional Zoom license to the GLR account to support states and students in 2023. Well said. Well done. And Olivia seconds that. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so are we amending the budget to increase the amount? Or are we keeping it the same? Because then we don't actually have to amend the budget.
Can we crunch a couple numbers and decide later if we have to amend the budget based on if we use the webinar, or just kind of crunch those numbers or whatever?
Yeah, I think we can. Is that, Lindsay, is that okay for you? Yeah, okay. So I will work on, so we had a motion. Do we need to do anything? And it was seconded. Does that mean we need to vote on that motion? We need to vote on that motion. So in this case, if we don't want to amend the budget right now, can we amend the motion? I don't believe at this point. I think we vote down this motion and then we can just not have a motion.
Correct.
I'm just had a thought in my head. I'm suddenly hungry for cookies. For those of you that have been on the call the past couple of nights, I'm suddenly very hungry for cookies and wishing I had a Cookie Monster here. Anyway, yes, break out the cookie emojis. So I will go ahead and take a vote for this motion. All right, all in favor of amending the budget, please raise your hand. All right, you may lower hands. All opposed, to amending the budget? All right, that's 16 hands, in lower hands. And anybody abstaining? The motion carries with 16 yays, and I believe it was 1 nay, if I saw correctly on my screens. And all right, so we're just going to leave that sit. I think right now I will go ahead and initiate with Alice or with Lindsay getting that next Zoom license purchased, and we will amend the budget as needed. And I can assure you that I will be bringing cookies to our in-person meetings. I can assure you. Please rest your heads well tonight. That now I will be bringing cookies. Okay. It was voted down. Yes, I'm so used to saying that a motion passes. I apologize. Thank you for that correction. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the motion did not carry. We are not amending the budget. Thank you, Kelly. All right, moving on to our last bit of new business. I mentioned here earlier that, especially in light of the information that Carol shared with me about APAC, we're really thinking about how can the region provide more support to more people during this time that we're in, and wondering if we can really build upon the strengths of our region and the strong foundation of clinical training and education that we have, and offer some support. So I would like to propose an ad hoc committee be formed. You have access to this document in the agenda. It is in draft form, so I do ask that this, is still very much in working form. But I am proposing that I'm going to go ahead and share this here for a second. Do you have access? I believe. I'm proposing that we create a GLR Music Therapy Education and Training Resource Committee. The charge of that, and in draft form, as I mentioned, being to provide regional support and resources to universities, clinical training supervisors, internship directors, and supervisors. With specific tasks that have some additional things underneath them, identifying areas of need and resources that would be beneficial to those within our community and our region. And that's at the various levels. We have university and internship level, as well as continuing education needs. What sorts of resources could be beneficial and helpful and desired on a website? What other opportunities can we provide for ongoing networking? I would like to have this committee help plan and facilitate quarterly roundtable discussions in 2023. Again, opening opportunities for networking. I'd like for this committee to be thinking about processes and structures to act as a sounding board and a network for our community members during the application review and renewal processes that are involved at the various levels, whether they be internship or university. I know many people talk about the daunting tasks that it is to file all those different things in terms of renewals and applications and things like that. Is there an FAQ that can be created? Is there a way to ask a question of this group when looking for guidance? Is there a way to offer some additional resources online? The committee makeup is something I'd like to strongly consider and make sure that we look at. I'd like to see representation from all states, but also have be accommodating and be very open to the idea that there could be other people that are interested in this work who would like to be a part of it. So additional open spaces to accommodate that interest. I'd like to make sure we have a balance in our lenses represented, not just university professors, not just internship folks, and not just national roster folks, but also our affiliated internships and making sure that they are part of this conversation. I think that previous experience is helpful, because they've been there, done that, kind of, understand where you're coming from can help. But I think there's also, a benefit to having some newer and younger voices in this conversation as well. And the skeleton of a draft, I think about, do we have two committee co-chairs, and is there something I've thought about in my head and I've consulted with a couple of other folks just in fleshing this out a little bit. Is this a place where maybe our representatives to APAC and our representatives to the internship approval committee could help, kind of guide this committee on a regional level? Do we ideally would have 4 other folks? And I think this is an opportunity, where we can definitely benefit from maybe some of our retired colleagues that might want to be a part of this work. I'd like to propose that we send an open post or include this in a call for interest that goes out, call for service. I think it's important that we include an email out to all university programs, right? But also asking them to reach out to their affiliate internship sites, and also reaching out obviously to our AMTA sites and kind of see what the gauge is gauge the interest that might come. And then, I think my goal would be if we could, see if we can get a committee in place in January. And with them being able to have some time to work together in January and February and the early parts of March to come back to us as a board and even the membership in the community to kind of share where this possibly or potentially could go. I think one of the things that we can do, and one of the strengths of our region, is that we do have a very wide, pool of universities and respected educators, researchers, and clinical trainers, and the whole thing. And how can we continue to build the future, right? With helping to nurture and those that might need extra support at this time. So that's something that I bring to you. I'm mindful that, I have the ability to create a committee, but I don't want to create a committee on my own. I continue to grow as a leader, and I continue to learn a lot. And I don't feel comfortable creating this committee on my own. I want it to be something that is us as a group. So I wonder if the board is amenable to this proposal from me. So I'm seeing a couple of thumbs up. I'm seeing a couple of heart emojis. There's a comment from Olivia in here. This is something I've been passionate about a while. The students have been discussing the differences in academic experiences as music therapy students, looking at differences in curriculum and wondering if this is something that would be involved in the GLR MT Education and Training Resource Committee. For sure, this is where we can kind of look at some of those things, kind of the elephant in the room conversations about that go along with this part of it. Looks like Ashley is a recent student intern, new professional. I echo all of Olivia's comment, and Elizabeth as well. Yes. She lifts that comment up as well. Excuse me, Elizabeth Day lifts that up. Thank you. And I'm going to toggle back to our Google form here. I don't see anything specific about this. I do have several comments I need to go back and read that I will do at the end of the meeting here time. Would it be helpful to add a student intern voice to the committee? I think that's a wonderful opportunity to engage with people who are living and breathing the programs and the training. I don't think that's a wonderful idea. And I would agree with what Chelsea mentioned. Student voices are extremely valuable to all committee service. Yes. Yes. So I guess, similar to the last proposal that I brought to you, I would like to, get something into our minutes and into our records that for historical perspective, that we have had this conversation. I don't think it's going to end here. I don't think, my hope is that I can flesh this out a bit more and put out the call for service. And, I think it's very possible that whatever group is, whatever the makeup of our group is, they could, have a little more say in the shaping of this as well, right? As they come together and see what the needs might be. So I'm open to that. I don't think that any of this is set in stone for anything. And I think it something that's come up in conversation and in my thoughts too. So I'd like to share is that this is something I feel like we could use as a structure in the future for other areas of our regional support, right? Is this kind of a way to test out this process of having this structure in place to offer additional support at the regional level for our community. So I hope that this could be something that could be helpful down the road as well. So I will entertain a motion at this time to approve this committee or not approve. I don't want to assume. All right, looks like Todd, President-elect, moves to approve the committee. Chelsea has a second. Is there any further discussion on this? All right. I'm loving all the animals I'm seeing on screen right now. It really makes me smile. So I will go ahead and call the vote. All in favor of approving this music therapy education and training committee, please raise your hand. I see 17 hands raised. We lower hands. Anyone opposed?
I think that one's just leftover.
Okay. Maybe Kelly has stepped away, or Kelly, I just want to make sure I give you space if that is a nay. All right, she might have stepped away here a second, so I will mark it down as a nay. And then any abstentions? All right, looks like the motion carries. Thank you for your support of this, and I will definitely be in touch as we do more with this in the coming weeks. Ashley has a comment. I'd like to reshare Amy's comment that may have gotten lost. Thank you. Do we still need a motion to purchase the extra Zoom license even though it isn't in the budget? Well, that's a good point. Or have it noted somehow in the minutes, this is what we're going to do. That would, I would be comfortable with so noted if everybody else is okay with that. Can I get a thumbs up or a head nod or a fun emoji or something? Okay. Looks like I'm seeing that from multiple people. I get a cat in the screen. I think that is a yes. All right. So I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our Google form. And there are a couple of comments that I skipped over that I will finish up our time with tonight. Someone said, someone confirm what will be communicated to AMTA and the motion to defer the dues payment by 6 to 9 months / wait and see what happens. Yes, I will put some language together and I will circulate it amongst this our board members to make sure that it is indeed what we wanted to say. So yes, look for that from me in the coming days. Also, this one had not been read. Relating to the trust, last night demonstrated how there is a lack of communication and easy access to previous information in AMTA. We saw how the DEI committee were not made aware that similar motions had been presented in the past, but not put in the bylaws. From my understanding, someone please correct if this is incorrect. If AMTA cannot ensure that the vital information is passed on, no matter how amazing Leslie is, example, gathering answers to questions asked on Monday night for a Tuesday meeting in less than 24 hours, there is concern for someone / something else withholding the information from Leslie, not that she herself would be the one withholding things on purpose. Okay, thank you for those comments. Again, I'm grateful for the open, transparent thoughts that are being shared here, and I value that greatly. And the last couple that I think were not read,
I can comment on that if you don't mind. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, I'm screen sharing, or I'm on the wrong button. Let me look and see who. Oh, Angie. Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize your voice. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, I've got laryngitis. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I sound pitiful. Before I comment, I just want to thank all of you. This is hard work. It's important work, and I'm proud to be a part of the GLR. I just really want to comment on this one because I really know specifically about this. I can see how people might have thought from last night that there were motions passed that don't need to be passed, and that's not true. I think we might get confused between what was discussed in a board meeting, what might have got talked about and talked in a board meeting. This is back when there were different president, different board. I was present in those meetings, and there was not a motion. Otherwise, all of you would have remembered this, because you can't change the bylaws unless it goes to the membership. So I'm not positive of the exact ones that were referenced, because it was made like a general statement. But I know for a fact that those things were not changed in the bylaws, and it was just coming in line with what was supposed to be. So it may be getting misunderstood here, and I would challenge you all to not be afraid to take me on right now. I am your colleague, I am your friend. I also think that when you get into a role, all of a sudden it's pretty lonely there, okay? I'm not doing that work alone, and there are several other people here in this room now that serve with me. And I'm proud of our integrity. I'm proud of what we're having to swim through. Not an excuse. Everyone should ask these hard questions. I'm not ever asked. I think we should lean into it. But I just want you to know that there was not a duplication, as far as I know, and the DEI committee, we've already been communicating. We're going through to find all these things to see. I'm pretty sure the bylaws piece have not been duplicated. The keeper of a lot of these other things was our CEO. And our CEO has been gone since June. This is not a comment on that CEO. Let me tell you, there's a lot going on. The systems that we have of record keeping and the way that our IT is kept is archaic. You would think we would have enough time to go through and get all this stuff. We have had to hire professional consultants to help us go and mine through everything. Ed Taylor spent working full-time people. We're volunteers. I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you that we have passion and we're with you. We want this all to change. Sleepless, multiple weeks, nights, and I mean, trying to find information. We're still looking for some information. We've gotten quite a bit. And I just want you to know that there is no trickery here. And this is, if you tomorrow assumed one of these positions, I would challenge you to be able to swim through all of that. And much of it is information that the national office staff stayed on top of, an amazing group of people. We are down to 2 staff that are full-time. We are not in a physical building. There are so many more details. All of you want the best. And so I'm not telling you not to ask. You got to keep doing that because you're helping everybody find these gaps. I'm going to tell you what, there is no information being held from Leslie Henry. 0. Ed left. He was the first treasurer to have to learn to do so much. So much. And he did not leave because he does not want to work with us. It's not my business to tell you why Ed left. Okay. So I know I was a regional president before. I know how it feels to feel defensive. I challenge you to go into the new future with us, the new now, and that the people on this board right now are not afraid of these hard conversations. Pick up the phone and call us. Pick up that phone because we all have jobs. We all have families. We have family emergencies too. We want to hire staff. We need money to do that. If we don't manage this right now, we can't make it come out of the air. So if you believe that we should have a national association that everyone is a part of, I challenge you to go there with us and decide if $10 for a benefit concert is worth your money to invest in Pick Trust. It's okay with me that if you vote down whatever, you got to do what you think is right. And I know all of your hearts. Your hearts are good. I'm telling you that all the people on the board that I serve with, their hearts are good. Their integrity is good. We are not CEOs. We are not financial experts. We are doing a hell of a lot of work that we never signed up for. We signed up for the hard work, but we didn't know it was going to be this other hard work. Okay. So this is not excuses. But I just want you to know that some of the things that are getting said in spaces like this and at our public meetings are either misunderstandings, half-truths, and sometimes they're really flat out not even true at all. So put yourself and pretend you're Moline, but it's national. And it's in front of all the regions who all have different communication styles. Just imagine that. And decide right there in the moment when you don't know someone's going to take you on, if you're going to get into it with them and tell them that they're wrong and embarrass them in front of people. There's a lot of decision making to do. We are good therapists. We are like a family. We don't agree on everything. Music therapy needs us to figure this out. And so I just want you to know that I'm not upset with all of your hard questions. I'm really quite proud of being a part of all of this. But I want you to know that that cynical part, I challenge you to just take a step back and just say to yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong thinking that Angie Snell is hiding something from us and trying to swindle you? What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong that we're holding back information from Leslie Henry? You could be wrong, could be right. So you have to ask the question. So I will never, ever tell you not to go there and to challenge. But I'm telling you, let's not grow hate and toxicity. Let's grow truth and let's learn how to live in this discomfort together. I don't know if you realize what can happen if our national organization does not make it through the hump. You should see what's going on. We can't say we have a grant when we don't have it, but there is so much work going on. And our families are suffering. We don't want to set up the future. So you all would not want to serve on the national level. You would be awesome there. But we don't want you to have to lose your families over it or your health. So I ask you to consider, do you deplete people's hope and energies, or do you help bolster it up without not asking the hard questions? Great Lakes region, I am Great Lakes region. You are Great Lakes and your AMTA. Both. It's we, it's not them. And I'm sitting here with couple other people who are sitting and doing that hard work on the board. Our emails, I'm sure yours are just as bad, but our emails are, you can't even imagine how deep they are. I feel confident that we're going to get a handle on this. So volunteering is going to be fulfilling and doable. And so we shift our financial dependency to be more spread out, so that dues is not our main income. But we can't do it overnight. We just can't. We got to have, the public has to trust us and want to invest in us. And so if you don't trust us and the public sees you don't trust us, why should they donate to us so you don't have to pay as high dues? Be on the team. Don't be the opposition. And being on the team is speaking the truth as you're doing. But I'm telling you, help us shift this. I need to learn from you. There's a lot going on. And I challenge you to challenge me. And if I'm out of order here, I would want you to let me know that. But I felt really strongly when I saw that comment. I appreciate the person who put it there, because how else are they going to know what other information, right? I'm not, but I feel like, wow, I need to answer this. So there's been a lot of improvements. They're not enough. They're a scratch of the surface. Doesn't happen overnight. Okay, and we've been in this other state since May, when we found out, and our CEO had to go in June. We're already moving to figuring out a way to let go of our hired financial consultants, which will free up. We're this close, people. How much can we put out there for everyone to see? It's going too fast. We're putting out what we can. So kudos to all of you. Thank you for letting me talk. Thank you for allowing me to attend the meeting. I am a member, of course, but I purposely wanted to step back because you're all doing amazing work. And don't feel bad about any of the questions or statements you said tonight. Every perspective needed to be represented.
Thank you, Angie, for being brave to speak out. I know you are a GLR member. As a leader, I stand on your shoulders right now, because you're one of the people that is an extremely strong mentor to me in your leadership style. And I continue to be, as I learned from many in this role, I continue to learn. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you being open and transparent and honest, and for being a part of the GLR. Thank you for all that you're doing. And thank you for challenging us as well.
I'm on your team. You are going to be, many of you are going to be leaders in that organization very shortly. So please know that it's doable. It's doable, everybody. Everybody wants music therapy, and we got to get our act together so they can have it.
In the spirit of not harming my family, though, the death glares that I am getting through my office door, and the text that I'm receiving from my husband about engaging in self-care, are the reason I want to keep our meeting going. So, not to silence anyone, but just to keep everything going. So I will just read these couple of last comments. The last comment was, I think, in regards to our committees and call for service. I think this is wonderful. However, I do agree that many MTs are volunteering in multiple ways and positions and are feeling burnout. I think we also need to be mindful of accessibility for young professionals, individuals from marginalized communities, and all folks. Very much so. I've been thinking about burnout a lot today, and reflecting on that, and doing a bit of writing and thinking about how to move forward with some of that. I think this is a very big thing for us to think about, and in maintaining the energy and the self-care to continue this work. And then there's a comment to say thank you for the additional background information, Angie. It's helpful to have that information that some of us were not around for. I want to make sure that if there was any comment that I missed in the scrolling, that I please call me out on that. I want to make sure that I have not left anything out in any of the scrolling that I've been doing tonight. And then we have, looks like Chelsea, you have one more point to share, and it'll be quick.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to recognize the collective exhaustion. Excuse me. A lot of folks here are going on their 10th hour of meetings this week, and I want to say thank you. And I see you, and I feel you. I also want to say how much I've appreciated the Google form as a space, and I felt that it was easy to read and follow, and I could stay focused and present, because sometimes I feel overstimulated by the chat going, but I love that our chat is a supportive space and fun. And another thing I just wanted I'm going to share two resources. I'm going to share the DEI page from the website and also the GLR DEI email, because I also want to recognize that through using this Google form, it is very helpful to follow, and it kind of limits opportunities to engage and have involvement with DEI, AJ related conversations. As I was following the form, I was noticing some of the challenges that were coming specifically to some of the feedback that I was given with my lens. And again, I wanted to share the page because a lot of the advocacy that I was sharing this evening was based on the DEI values that we created as a group. And as a committee, we want to engage in conflict. So these challenges and these moments that came up about white supremacy and perfectionism and expedience, you know, that's an opportunity there for us to have a dialogue. So if that person or people are still here, or if they look at this recording, if that person feels comfortable, you know, please reach out to our committee email so that we can engage more, because our committee, we really feel like those moments, those opportunities for growth come from some of what was going on this evening. And I just want to offer that to anyone. The committee, we're here and we want to engage with you and we want to grow alongside with you based on the values that we're passionate about. Thank you. That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you for that. I'm grateful for the continued resources that you share. Thank you for that. All right, so announcements. I don't know that we have any particular ones. Just watch your email from things that might come from the conference folks. Am I missing anything? Yes, maybe I am. Allison.
No, that was, it's just as a follow-up from our last executive board meeting, when Kelly and I brought forth the masking and acknowledgement of risk statements. We have a meeting with a lawyer from a law firm that is a nonprofit-based law firm and focuses on nonprofit work. It was affordable within our budget, so all is well, and we will keep you posted.
Another thing, Ohio introduced a bill, woohoo, yesterday for licensure. Congrats on that. Very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so here's the deal. This is our last exec board meeting of the calendar year. I am hopeful that everyone at all levels of this organization, every tier of it, can really get some time and some space to step away, engage in self-care and reflection, and just even just some quiet time for their minds and their hearts and all that, right? And their calendars too. I will be taking a very intentional pause on our work in the GLR from probably about the 15th on, so I think that's just important to do. I hope that we can all do that a little bit. But in the spirit of reflecting a bit, I am going to put this, I would like to, Tadia, I think you have the link, and I'd like for everybody to go ahead, if you feel comfortable, to participate in this Mentimeter. And this is a chance for us just to reflect a little bit. I encourage you to share words to describe 2022 in the GLR. Feelings, accomplishments, frustrations, and areas for growth are all welcome. And I do this tonight because I want to make sure that we, you know, even amongst the discomfort, you know, the shaking voices and the shaking hands as we speak, you know, against the fears that we have in tonight, I'm hopeful that we can remind ourselves that we are all in this for many of the same reasons. And I hope we can remind ourselves what brings us together, remind ourselves of and celebrate what that is. So we'll just watch this go, and I will share it with the board, and maybe we'll share it online as well. I'm not sure. We'll see what comes of it. Haven't decided that yet, but I think you can make up to 10 different submissions for words, and thanks for being in a space with me to do that. Thank you for a year of many ups and downs, a year of constant, which the constant has been that we've all worked our tails off, and that is not to be overlooked, and that is not to be swept aside without a bit of reflection and a great deal of appreciation on my part. So thank you. I will adjourn our call. It's 10:16 Central Time. And any who would like to stay on the call are welcome. And have a great holiday season, everyone. Take care.